Hey y'all, how are you? I hope and pray that all is well your way. So happy to see you guys. So sorry that I kept pushing it back, but I am here. Hope you guys have had an amazing day. This is a pop up, pop in, and we're gonna pop out with the truth. All right. Wanted to come out here. God laid this really heavy on my heart. I can feel the passion of God. Um, on this message about fatherlessness. You can see the effects of fatherlessness in the earth, and many of you have suffered through those effects. And that's what we're going to deal with on today. I do believe that this message is going to bring deliverance to so many of you. And I'm not talking about up and out. A lot of times, because I am in the ministry of deliverance, a lot of people, when they hear me say deliverance, they get excited because they think I'm going to be saying up and out, manifest and go. And that's not always, that's not the only extension of deliverance. Deliverance comes in through the truth. The Bible says you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And so I do believe that messages like these set people free, not just from demonic oppression. Yes, I do believe that through teaching, people get delivered from unclean spirits. I see it all the time. I've had people to literally tell me that they were going through deliverance while I was teaching, and I wasn't saying up and out. I remember teaching on rejection one time, and this guy comes up to me at church, and he gives me, he asked me for my cash app, if I'm thinking correctly. And I was like, oh, and I gave him my cash app, and he cashed out me some money. And he was like, I want you to know I was listening to your message the other day on rejection, and I literally just started going through deliverance. I was on your live, and I literally just started going through deliverance. But it takes to have an open heart to go through deliverance, because the truth, once it gets into the heart, it is designed to cut away the lies, to cut away all of the things that are protecting the lies, and to set you free. The truth is designed to start to peel the scales back from your eyes. And I believe that this is what this message is going to do on today. You guys know, typically I'll wait till Sunday to go live, and I will go live this Sunday, God willing. Nevertheless, I felt a heaviness, a burden to come out and teach this message. I felt the heart of God. I felt the passion of God, and I felt the pull of God to come out and just talk on fatherlessness, and to just tell you the power of having a present father, the power of that. Now, before we go into the message, I want to go ahead and say this. Do me a favor. Be sure to like and share. All right. Be sure to like and share. Do me that favor right now. For those of you who are just still looking at me and you have not touched the button, stop it. Stop it. Like and share. Do that for me right quick. Let's get some engagement going. That helps with the algorithm of the video. But I do want to say this. It is going to get offensive up in here for some people. And at the same time, I want you to understand that some of the stuff I'm going to say, it can sound, it depends on how you hear it. It depends on your filter. Not everybody hears through the same filters. Some people hear through the filters of rejection. Some people hear through the filters of insanity. Some people hear through healthy filters. So it's going to depend on your filters. So I'm not saying that if you don't have a father, this is what's happening to you, and this is what's going to happen to you, or anything like that. I think that the fact that I did grow up and partially grow up, for the most part, I had a two-parent household. I don't want to come off as me saying, oh, see, I had a two-parent household and you did it. This is what I saw. No, my dad and my mother went through a divorce when I was 16 years old. And even though I had a two-parent household, I had the dysfunction. I grew up in the dysfunction of a one-parent household, and not all one-parent households are dysfunctional. I get that, but you get what I'm saying. But I grew up in a really, really broken household. But there are some things, and you've heard me say this before, I'm wired to see patterns. I can't help but to see patterns in people, which is one of the reasons why I don't always form a lot of relationships with people, because everybody got patterns. And patterns, once I start seeing that pattern, if it's a negative pattern, it starts to kind of annoy me. And I be like, you really need to stop that. For example, you got to have it cutting people off. Every time you talk, you're like, hey, I hear what you said, but let me talk to me, say this right quick. Let me just get this in. At some point, I'll be like, hey, you need to stop, okay? Because this little whole thing of you having to be in control of the conversation is really just not, it's not cool. So you're going to have to wait your turn, stop playing double dutch in the conversation. You're going to have to put the hush to the up, and you're going to have to bite it. But when it comes down to this, because I see patterns, I've seen the patterns of fatherlessness, just like I've seen the patterns of having a present father. And I don't want to come off also like I'm encouraging women to stay in households just so their children can have a present father. If the father of the child is dysfunctional and damaging the child, no, I'm definitely not encouraging that. So don't get me wrong in what I'm going to say, because I'm going to tell a little bit about my story. I'm going to talk a little bit about my story. I don't think I'm going to go into deep detail about it. I'm going to tell a little bit about my story when it comes down to having a father. And at the same time, I'm going to talk about some of the things that I've seen. So just to kind of start this off, first and foremost, let me know that you are in the room. What city and state are you tuning in from? Just so I can see that you are present. I know some of you done laid the phone down, all that. No, pick that phone right back up. Pick that phone right back up and engage me on today. Pick that phone right back up. Let me know what city, state, what country you are engaging from. And also do me a favor, engage the video. All right, be sure to like, share, and if you have not subscribed to this channel, subscribe to this channel. I believe after this message, you probably want to subscribe. Hopefully, you'll see that the spirit of truth is here and that I am here to help set the captives free. All right, that is the objective. I see you guys are coming in from all over the world. I see you. Wow, I see all the cities and states. I see Netherlands, Amsterdam. I love it. You know, that one time I went to Amsterdam, and I didn't know Amsterdam and Netherlands were the same. So when somebody asked me something, I don't remember, but when I told him, I was like, no, I've been to Amsterdam. And he was like, that's the same as the Netherlands. I was like, oh. So that's that. I'm excited about talking with you guys on today. All right. Hey. I see the Caribbean up in here. I'm not naming all the cities and states, but Martin. I see all this. I'm just looking at the countries and stuff like that up in this room. Really excited about this particular message. But just to go ahead and get into the message. I was raised in a 2-parent household. All right. To start this off, I was raised in a 2-parent household all the way up until I was 15, and my parents broke up when I was 15, and their divorce was finalized when I was 16. When my mother and father broke up, I threw a house party. It wasn't a big house party, but I went around the neighborhood trying to find some kids to come to the house, and it's the day that my dad packed his stuff and left. And the reason I did that was because ever since I was a little girl, I've always had to play referee when it came down to my parents. Me and my brother had to play referee when it came down to my parents. Not that my dad was physically abusive. My dad had his own form of abuse. My mother was the one that would be the fighter. My dad, on the other hand, unbeknownst to me as a kid, my dad was in church. My dad plays piano. He still plays piano to this day. And my dad had his ways, but we couldn't see it because we were kids. All I saw was my dad crying. I saw my dad trying to reason with my mom. I saw my dad, just doing everything he could. And I saw my mom angry. I always saw her angry. So when I was a kid, I automatically assumed that the problem was my mother and that my dad needed to leave her alone because she just had so much anger. And I remember one particular occasion, I talked about this before, me and my brother, because when my mother she would get angry, she would get so enraged that she would go into the kitchen and she would get a knife. And she didn't just grab a knife. You know how some women grab a knife or what have you, and they just come in to scare. Oh, no, mama wasn't trying to scare. Mama came in to slaughter. Okay. My dad would have to literally catch her. He had to catch her hand in air because she would raise it with so much rage, and she would come forward. She would just be so angry. I grew up seeing that. So consequently, with my brother, we started mastering hiding. Like we could master, you could tell when they were going to get the fight was going to go to that level. And so what we did, like I remember my dad was on the phone with my mom. I was maybe 5 or 6 years old, and they were on the phone, and my dad was at home. My mom was at work. And I remember my mom was arguing. My dad wouldn't argue back for the most part. And I remember running, me and my brother, my brother like, hey, we need to hide the knives because my mom was talking about what she was going to do when she got home. So we rushed into the kitchen. We got all the knives. We got the forks, everything that my mom couldn't work my dad with. And we took that stuff and we hid it. All right, we took it and we hid it. And I remember my mom, sure enough, she get home and she and my dad, they going at it in an argument, and she storms off into the kitchen. And, we're just kind of scared because we want the fight to just be over with. It's another crazy day in the Buckner household. But my mother goes into the kitchen and she snatches the drawer open. And I remember the sound of utensils when she used to do that. I remember the sound, like the sound that would come out whenever she was looking for a knife or what have you. But she was like, where are my knives? Where are my knives? And, we're like afraid that she's about to direct her anger at us. But she was so enraged with him that she couldn't think about it for too long. She just looked, and then she went back into the room or what have you. And I don't know whatever weapon of choice she decided to use, but she used her weapon of choice, and her and my dad, they had their fight. My dad would never fight her back, and then that was that. And I remember I talked about this before. My dad, me and my brother, I was 8 or 9 years old. We decided to have a meeting with my mother, right? With my dad, not my mother. My mom, I think, was maybe at work because my mom worked 2 jobs my whole life. But my mom was maybe at work, and we come up in the room, and I don't know why I remember holding the clipboard. I don't know if that was me being dramatic or holding a notebook or what have you. But we walked up in there, and we were like, Dad, we think you need to fight back. We were telling my dad to beat my mom break. We would beat my mom. We were telling my dad, we're gonna need you to act like Mister, okay? We're gonna need you to do something. You need to at least fight back. And my dad was sitting up, and he was like, no, your mom's a woman, this, and the other. And like, yeah, but she's not fighting like she's a woman. And I remember us telling her, and I remember me telling my dad, can you at least body slam her? Can you at least body slam her? Can you do something? Because in my little young mind, I believed that if my dad body slammed my mother, if he showed her the power that he had, that she would stop doing the evil fighting and stuff like that. But it took me to get older to come to realize that my mother was reacting. Not to say that what she did was good, not to say that it's justified, but I am saying that what she was doing is what they call reactive abuse, right? She was reacting to a lot of things that my dad did. My dad played piano in church. My dad did a lot of gaslighting with her, manipulating. He was cheating like crazy. She was working 2 jobs at a time, and she was just doing the most. And rarely was my dad working and what have you. He was out of job always. He just basically tried to use the church for his income, just playing the piano at the church. And then he'd make excuses as to why he didn't have a job. And whenever he did get a job, he'd either get fired or laid off. And so my mom was reacting, right? So that's the reason why I ended up throwing a party when I turned 15, when they finally broke up. I threw a party because you have to understand, I had been living in that household all those years. And at the same time, there was a bonus that came with my daddy, mom breaking up. My brother moved with my dad. Jesus, y'all don't even know. Y'all don't even know we were going through hell with my brother. I love you, brother, if you're watching this, but he knows he was hell on legs. Okay. So the fights that my parents had, me and him had. Me and this dude used to fight. We used to fight all the time. And he's 2 years older than me. Obviously, he's a boy. He's stronger, and I couldn't overpower him, but he's light skinned. So I learned, my way of fighting back was to use some claws, right? That was my faith. If I was going to fight, if I was going to lose, I'd be just on the bottom clawing him up. At least I was like trying to write Tiffany is here. I used to always say I was Freddy Krueger him. But I was saying all this to say that even in the presence of a 2-parent household, there can be some dysfunction, all right? There can, and oftentimes is, some dysfunction. And a lot of this in the Black family has everything to do with unhealed trauma. And I'm talking about generational trauma. It is not a justification because you can get healed. It is not a justification because there are tools available for your healing. It is not a justification because you can easily get up today and decide, I don't want to be this way anymore. Let me go get help. All right. It's not a justification, but I have to say that when it comes down to the Black household, and a lot of households, don't get me wrong, but when it comes down to the Black household, there is a lot of trauma, a lot of dysfunction, a lot of brokenness, a lot of narcissism, a lot of behaviors that are ungodly, perverted, twisted, jacked up, and it has jacked up a generation of people. So consequently, we got the statistics that we got, okay? And I think I'm going to jump and start off with some statistics before we get into the message. Hopefully I still got them pulled up. So let's just talk about, and I typed this into Google and it came up with the AI overview. So this is what you're going to hear me reading. I'm reading the AI overview, and it says, and I typed in facts about single mothers, facts about single mothers. In the U.S., and this is what it said, in the U.S., about 15 million children live with a single mother, accounting for roughly 1 in 4 households with children. Roughly half of single mothers have never been married, while others are divorced, separated, or widowed. These households face high rates of poverty, nearly 40%, and significant economic, time, and child care burdens. Demographics and structure. Age. while many are in their 30s to 40s. A significant portion are older, suggesting a rise in intended single motherhood. Race: single mothers are disproportionately Black, with 47% of Black children living with a single mother, followed by 23% of Hispanic children. I'm going to say something I got to give out, and I told you I was going to get offensive up here. I'm going to say something to my brothers out here, because realistically speaking, there's trauma in the Black family. There's trauma that it's like in the Black community, you're not allowed to tell the truth. But I refuse to be a part of that statistic. You're not allowed to say the things out loud, because of the Black community. A lot of them are still under the slavery or the bondage of what happens in this house stays in this house. And that mentality has kind of filtered over into what happens in this race stays in this race. You just say it in passing. You say it in conversations with Black people in other rooms, in a small room, but you can't say it out loud. And I absolutely refuse to do that, because we need to hear this stuff out loud. But I want to say this. I think about children anytime I think about this particular dynamic. I think about children. You know, when a child breaks their toy, they want to play with yours. And I know they talk about it, even though the statistics don't favor this, but they talk about like a Black man who will go out there and get super successful. And a lot of times when Black men get successful, they go after non-Black women because they see Black women as inferior. So they'll settle down with a Black woman if they are broken and poor and struggling. But if they ever get to a certain level of success, that they will go after a non-Black woman. And that is true for a lot of Black guys. That's not true for every Black guy. That is true. But honestly, let me just say this. I don't care what race you go after. I don't care. You know, I'm you're the human race. That's how I look at it, right? I'm not against interracial relationships, but I am against the mindset I want to go after another race because I feel like the other race is inferior. When it's an intentionality, when it becomes, if you just find love in another race, that's great. But when it becomes an intentionality, when you say in your head, Black women are nothing, or you say Black men are nothing, or you say somebody from your race, oh, they're beneath me because I'm here, then I think that that is a form of, it's dysfunctional. It's dysfunctional thinking. But I have to say this. Okay, I got to say this. The man is the head of the house. Husband's the head of the house, right? The man has always been the leader of the family. Within the Black community, there are a lot of Black women and a lot of Black men. But I have to say to the Black men, you broke your own woman. A lot of Black women are broken because of the men. So when you break your own, you go after somebody else's. I've seen this as a kid, where a kid will break a toy, right? They'll break a toy, and you have two kids out there, and they're playing with they got these little jet fighters and stuff like that, and they're running, they're throwing them, what have you, and one breaks his, and then when he breaks his, he wants the other guys, right? And that's what I believe happens when it comes down to this. A lot of Black guys who, because they've broken a lot of Black women, because they've established demonic cultures within the community, you know, whenever they do rise up, they realize that, hey, you know, a lot of the women are messed up. A lot of the women need healing. And they do go after women who are non-Black intentionally, meaning they specifically say, I don't want a Black woman. And I think that type of thinking is dysfunctional, because there are healthy Black women, just like there are healthy white women, healthy Hispanic women. Go after whoever it is that you love, regardless of what race she is. But understand this. If you are a baby mama maker, I've heard an influencer say that if you're a person that goes out and makes baby mamas and stuff like that, you are part of the problem. Okay? You are a part of the problem. You're a part of the statistic. And that has become a statistic. And realistically speaking, like I said, today I'm going to say some stuff out loud that we just don't say because we were told, you know, that's just, you don't say out loud. You know, that's not nice to say. But realistically speaking, typically wherever you see poverty, high levels or high rates of poverty, you're going to see a lot of the stuff that has become a part of the statistics as it relates to minorities. For example, if you go to third world countries, or if you go to areas in the United States that are highly impoverished, you're going to see the statistics come to life. You're going to see that wherever there's high levels of poverty, there's going to be fatherlessness, a lot of fatherlessness, a lot of men creating broken homes, a lot of broken women having children at young age, women who have multiple children by multiple men who have multiple children by multiple women. You're going to see a lot of drugs, alcoholism, and you're going to see tails. You're going to see people with their tails hanging out. You're going to see people with their tickle bitties hanging out. You're going to see high levels and rates of witchcraft. We can talk about the truth, right? We can talk about the truth. You will see all of those things. Wherever there is sin, sin is going to continue to grow. Okay? And hear me when I say this. I don't want anybody to, sorry, there we go. Come on, we got this. We gotta zoom in. I don't want anybody to come up into this in this live and to sit up here. All right, I might have to stay in my face. I don't want anybody to come into this live and get competitive. All right, I don't need the country pride. Let me see if I can. I don't need the country pride. Well, I don't need the gender pride. Because, well, what about these men? What about these women? Leave me with that. I'm going to teach on today, okay? I know typically when you do these type of messages, a lot of what happens is people start to, now this is what I'm supposed to do with this camera, y'all, to make it zoom back out, but the camera can be disrespectful at times. But I guess y'all going to have to just see me and my pimple. Okay. But a lot of times, anytime you start talking about this type of stuff, you're going to have people who get offended, who, in all our honesty, in their brokenness, are not willing to take accountability, and they want the message to be catered to their own dysfunction and their own problem. They want me to tell Black men how jacked up they are, or what have you, but they don't want me to tell Black women how jacked up they are, and they want me to tell Black men how jacked up they are so they can send this to their boyfriend or their baby daddy and hope that that's going to get him right. But I've said this before, you can't talk a demon out of being a demon. All right? You can't talk a demon out of being a demon. So y'all don't see me doing this quite a bit in here because I'm still figuring this camera out or what have you. So it has a tendency to zoom. But anyway, let's go ahead and move on. Right? We're not doing the isms and stuff like that. So if anybody comes in and you are already like this stiff neck, baby, that's a bruise, that's a wound, that's pride. Pride comes to guard that wound. And so your objective should be to get free. All right. To get free from that, as opposed to getting offended. But anytime you see fatherlessness, when it becomes a trend, you're going to see witchcraft. You're going to see poverty. You're going to see alcoholism. You're going to see half-naked women. You're going to see high rates of homosexuality and perversion. Sin, when it goes on a rampant, it does not sit up there and say, okay, we're not going to act like this. All right. Sin goes on a rampant. If you let sin be sin, sin is going to spread, and it's not going to stay contained to, let's say, promiscuity. It's not going to stay contained to alcoholism. No, it's going to spread out into drug use as well. It's not going to just stay into pornography and stuff like that. No, it's going to spread into homosexuality. It's going to spread to just a whole lot of stuff. Anytime things are allowed to go and grow on, then what ends up happening is it becomes a trend, it becomes a culture, it becomes normalized. And after a while, if it's not checked, if the church doesn't check it, if you got too many complacent Christians that are just kind of sitting back, just chilling, then what ends up happening is the sin just continues to grow. And then now you have to shut up about it because then people start making movements around it. All right. Then you got to shut up about it because people start making movements around. I'm going to leave the camera just like it is. All right. So let's go ahead and move on. I'm going to talk about fatherlessness. But like I said, I came from a household where I had a father. And me and my dad's relationship, and I'm not going to go too deep into that. I've shared that story before, took a big major hit because I used to be my daddy's little girl. Right. But it took a major hit when I was a young lady, when my parents started going through their divorce. I'm not going to go too deep into that, but it started when, or it was instigated that day when I found out, when my dad said to me that I could have a boyfriend. Well, not even have a boyfriend, that he wanted me to come live with him. And me and my sister to come live with him. And this was him and my mom were separated. And he told me that I could, if I did, and I was 16 years old, 15 or 16 years old, that I could not only have a boyfriend, which I had just got the permission to start having boyfriends, but that I could sleep with him. Right. And I tested the theory. I told that story before. I tested the theory. I went over to my dad's house that weekend. I said, so I can have somebody come get me in. He was like, yeah. So I was in between boyfriends. I had this one boyfriend that I had been boyfriend, girlfriend with for like 2.5 years. And me and that dude never had sex. Right. He was like my first serious relationship. And he didn't live too far from my dad. I ended up calling him up on the phone and I said, hey, come over. I told him to come over. I'm at my dad's house. Told him where my dad stayed. He was like, all right, I'll turn the block. He came around and he was a virgin. I didn't know that at the time, but he came around. We sat in the car, talked, and I'm just sitting up there at this time. I I want to be grown. Listen, I wanted to be grown. The thought of being able to stay a night with a boy, I wanted to be grown. And I ain't got to come home. It ain't got to be no quick. Like I get to do what I want to do all night long. I'm young at the time, naive at the time, obviously not saved. And when I told him, I said, and he comes, his family Jehovah's Witness. So I looked at the guy and I was like, my daddy said I could stay the night with a boy. And he looked at me and I could tell he got nervous. And he came from a healthy household. Okay. He came from a healthy household. So I can only imagine the level of dysfunction he probably thought in that moment. He probably was like, OMG. I said, my daddy said that I could stay the night with a boy. And he was like, I can't. I'm in my brother's car. I had to take my brother's car back. I was like, can't get a hotel? And he was like, no, I gotta be home. This, that, and the other. And I kind of feel like after that, I don't know if he rushed me out of the car, but everything felt rushed after that. Then I got in the car with him, and I had another dude that I had just broken it off with for being a thought, right? And I ended up calling him up on the phone. And he was really entangled with my dad. My dad and my brother had lived with his mother, but his mother and my dad were not in a relationship or what have you, but they had started building kind of a family dynamic over there. And he knew where my dad stayed because he used to hang out with my brother. He was coming over to the house, and I ended up calling him up on the phone because I was so desperate to get home. I was so desperate to sit back and have that one night with the king. Okay, I was just so desperate to have, and me and him, we had been in a relationship. We had been sexually active before, but I was so desperate to explore what it was like to be grown that I ended up calling him up on the phone. And when I called him up on the phone, no, he called and what have you. He was talking and he was like, "Yeah, we'll swing through there later and see you." And I said, "My dad said I could stay another boy." He said, "I'm on my way." I don't know where I remember that. He said, "I'm on my way." That was it. He said, "I'm on my way." He came over to the house, picked me up. Well, I sat in the car with him. We in the house. Said, "Dad, hey, I'm gonna stay the night with such and such." My dad said, "Okay, remember what I told you. Don't go out here." He said, "Use condom. Don't get pregnant. All of that kind of stuff." And I left with the guy. I got in the car with the guy, and we went to his mom's house. His mom was a clubber, if I remember correctly. So there was nobody at the house but me and him. So we proceeded to try to be grown. But by the grace of God, it didn't feel like the grace of God at that time. My brother had footed it out because he heard the conversation. He footed it out. He ran from my dad's house, and he ran for if he had a drove there, it would have been 2 minutes, but the run there had been about 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes. But he ran on foot late at night, got to that house and beat on that door and beat on the bedroom window, beat on the door. And I'm like, ignore him. I just kept saying, just ignore him, just ignore him. just ignore him. And I was like, he'll go away. He was like, no. I said, no, ignore him. So obviously nothing went down. My mother found out about it. And when my mother found out about it, I didn't know why my dad had given me that green light. I didn't. But my mom was very intentional about not talking about my dad in front of us. But I overheard her one day. She didn't know I was around the corner. I overheard her on the phone. She was so upset about what had happened because my brother told. And she sat back and she was like, I can't believe he would do that because he don't want to pay child support. And right then and there, that broke me. Like literally that it broke me because I was like, I had to answer like, my daddy was really willing to put me out there. And I heard my mom say to the lady or whoever she was talking to, let me see if I can do this one more time. But whoever she was talking to, I heard my mom say, and all he gonna have to pay is like $20, $30 a month because he's really not working. And I was like, my dad was really to get me humped out these streets for $20 to $30. Oh, what have you? And that right there put a strain on my relationship with him from that day forward because I realized that, my whole time with him that I hadn't been a daddy's little girl. One thing I came to realize over time is that some people some parents are close to you when they're still with each other. Some of y'all can attest to that. When two parents are together, sometimes you can have a father that's close to you. He can be your best friend. He can be your protector. He can be all those things while he's still with your mother. But him and your mother break up, then he goes off to himself, doesn't have anything else to do with you, all of that kind of stuff. And it can be a bit of a shocker to a kid who's used to having that relationship, because you genuinely believe from your heart that y'all had something special. But over the years, I came to realize that the relationship I thought I had with my father was not the relationship I actually had with him. So what I had to do was I had to learn how to have a different relationship with him. And I'm going to say this before I get into the notes. One of the lessons I learned in life is that some of you, the reason that you stay hurt is because you're still inhabiting the old relationship, the relationship that you believe you had. You're still there, and you're still dealing with the rejection, the abandonment. You're still waiting on your father to show up. You're still waiting on your mother to show up. You're still waiting on that parent to be that parent, but you have to abandon that space. I've learned this over the course of life, is that you have to go ahead and pull the plug on the relationship you thought you had, and you have to build the relationship that really is. That's if you want to build it. That's if you want to build it. But you have to pull the plug. I've said this to women. I've done one-on-one sessions back in the day. I may get around doing that at some point, but I'm not sure. I used to do one-on-one sessions. I don't do them anymore because I don't have time for it. But I've said this to men and women. I said one of the biggest problems that a lot of people have is that, let me see if I can try this again. Somebody told me to do an L by my head one time. This thing is just disrespectful. But one of the problems that I believe that a lot of people have, or I've seen that a lot of people have, is that you hold on to what was or what you thought it was. But I found that a lot of the relationships I've had with people over the years were not what I thought they were. And I had to let that go and build what was, or decide if I wanted to be a part of what was actually in existence. I'll say this, for example, to make it make sense. I've had times where I was friends with people who weren't a friend of mine. Okay? I was their friend, true friend, got their back and all. And then over the course of time, I started realizing that this person is not my friend. She's never been a friend of mine, but she still want to be a part of my life. She's still showing up. She's still doing this. And then I had to sit back and I had to kind of see, like, okay, what is this then? Because it's truly not a friendship. This is this is something different. So what is this that we have? And then I came to realize that in some cases, that was my sister in Christ. All right. In other cases, it was just somebody that, maybe needed mentorship, and I had to put the right label, which is one of the reasons I always say, let a relationship define itself. Stop defining relationships. Now, it's okay to define a relationship. Let's say if you start to date a person, what have you, yeah, there needs to be some definition, some clarity. But when it comes down to building relationships with people, just kind of let the relationship define itself. The relationship is going to announce to you what it is, as opposed to you announcing and calling somebody your friend, you're this, you're that. But whenever you have a relationship with a person, sometimes you have to allow that relationship to transition. Some relationships, somebody can be your friend in one season, and then at some point you missed the mark when the relationship kind of fizzled and it turned into something else, it transitioned into something else, and you're still inhabiting the friendship, but it's no longer a friendship. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? It is no longer a friendship. And so if you don't recognize that it's no longer a friendship, let me try my best, y'all, because I want this thing on my face. But if you're still inhabiting the friendship, disappointment is inevitable, because over the course of time, you're going to be looking for friendship benefits and you're not going to get it. And realistically speaking, you're not extracting friendship benefits on a daily basis. It's just going to be that time wherever you need a friend. It could be a hard time, a hard season, a hard moment when you need a friend, and that person's not going to show up for you as a friend. And then it's in that moment that you're able to go back and look at the history and say, this child ain't showed up for me in 3 years. This child hasn't showed up for me in 7 years, right? That's when you're able to look back and say that. And consequently, let me see if I can pull it close. Would it do anything? Would you get out of my face? But so how when you get a new camera, you don't study it. That's when you're able to define it. All right. So it's the same thing when it comes down to relationships with family members and even parents. I had to build a different relationship with my dad, and it took him a long time to let go of what he basically, the relationship that he presented to me, like, and so that because I went and moved somewhere else, right? I went and moved somewhere else and what have you, and I just I left the pretentiousness, I left the fake domain, I left the disappointment and the expectation and what have you, and I've learned, and I hope this blesses somebody. Don't expect anything of a person other than what they've already shown you. That'll help you with the disappointment part, okay? Don't expect anything of a person than what they've already shown you. If a person is doing something consistently, that's what you got. That's the relationship. Then you, before you build a thing, count the cost, then you can able to look at that and say, do I want to have a relationship with this person based on their habits? All right, not on your expectation. I'm helping you out. You can get delivered from this message if you listen, but I'm helping you out. You don't have to. Y'all forgive me if you keep see me doing this. It's just me trying to get this camera to do what it said it's gonna do. But you have to sit back and stop expecting your mother to show up, expecting your father to show up. If they have consistently shown you that they're not going to show up, if they've consistently shown you that this is what they're going to do, they're going to come into your life and disappear, or they're going to come into your life and do this and do that. That's the expectation I have of them from that point on. And that helps me to adjust to who I need to be in order to have a relationship with that person, if I want to have a relationship with that person. And that relationship dynamic is going to be different. So you have to understand, sometimes a parent will create, and not just a parent, any person will create a relationship. And I want you to think of a relationship like a room, but they will create a relationship and there are benefits that they extract from that relationship, but yet they're not present to do the job, right? They're not present like they ought to be as a parent to do the job. And at some point you have to sit back and you have to abandon that structure, and you have to go and live in the reality of what you do have with that person, and understand that they are going to get upset. They are going to kick and scream because they don't extract the benefits that they used to get, and they can't make those empty promises to you anymore. All right. Throwing up Christian gang signs. That'll be the cross. I wish this thing would move on across. It ain't doing nothing. All right. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on. Let's go back to the statistics, okay? Demographics and structures. While many are in their 30s and 40s, a significant portion are older, suggesting a rise in intended single motherhood rates. Single mothers are disproportionately Black, with 47% of Black children living with a single mother, followed by 23% of Hispanic children. Never married versus divorced. About 50% have never been married. 29% are divorced, 17% separated, and 4% widowed. Never married mothers tend to have lower incomes, $17,400 median, compared to divorced, separated, or widowed mothers. Economic and employment realities. Again, this is coming from AI from Google. Poverty rate. Single mother families are 5 times more likely to live in poverty than two-parent families. Income. The median income for single mother families is often around $40,000, significantly lower than $106,921 median for married couples. Employment. Roughly 3/4 of single mothers work, with many working full-time. Barriers. Nearly 40% work in low-wage jobs lacking paid leave, and they face higher child care rates. Education levels. I'm not going to go through this whole list, but I'll stop under education levels, I think. Roughly 66% do not have a college degree, and 14% have not graduated from high school. College students. Nearly 2.1 million college students are raising children without a partner, and 62% of all student mothers are single. Support network. Single mothers often rely on family, friends, and community, with 15% having no health insurance. I'm going to read the rest of this. Mental health and time use. Time constraints. Single mothers report high levels of stress due to balancing, cooking, cleaning, child rearing, and working. Mental health. They experience higher levels of psychological distress, including sadness and anxiety, compared to married counterparts. Positive factors. Despite challenges, they report high regards from a close bond with their children and a sense of independence and pride. And child outcomes. Well-being. Children in single-parent households are more likely to experience lower economic resources and, in some cases, higher rates of school dropout. Prevalence. The last one. Roughly 1 in 2 children will live in a single parent family at some point in their childhood. Y'all, I want you to hear when I say this. This was never the intention, nor was it the will of God. Okay? This was never the intention, nor was it the will of God. What ends up happening, I think if I just come up like this. No, it's not the intention, nor was it the will of God. This is the result of sin. A culture that's built on sin and that has normalized sin so much that many of you have become desensitized to it, to the point where a lot of the stuff that I'm going to start to say in my notes is going to offend. And I have to be okay with that, which I am okay with that, but it's going to offend because whenever something has become normalized, you're going to have an audience behind it that all echo the same thing. And they'll all be strong and wrong. And they'll want to kind of push their point across, all the while not being able to argue with the numbers. All the while having to deal. It's just like that whole general parenting thing. I'm sorry, I'm not going to go too deep into that. You got people behind that will sit back and argue about, having general parenting, and then there are you see what's happening, right? But anywho, let's go ahead and get into this message so that we're not on here for long amounts of time or what have you. The word father originates from the Old English father, and this comes from AI overview as well. Father, fader, Faeder, derived from the Proto-Germanic fader, Faeder, meaning he who begets a child, and ultimately from the Proto-Indo-European pi, root pater, Paeter. It is an ancient kingship term related to the pi root PEH2, protector, nourisher, reflecting a nurturing or protective role. All right. The 3 roles and offices of a father. I want you to write this down. And these are the same roles and offices of a husband. The 3 roles and offices of a father, and you heard me say this before. Protector, number 1. Protector, provider, and priest. These are the roles of a father. Now, I remember I had an old friend that used to say something that was so beautifully said, and she was so true about this. One of the greatest gifts you can give a child is a healthy father. I need the single ladies out there that still in their childbearing years, and you know that you're going to birth a kid to hear this. All right. One of the greatest gifts that you can give your child, your unborn child, your child that has not the egg that ain't been fertilized yet, is a healthy, God-fearing father. It's the nature of prudence to think ahead. All right. That's the nature of prudence to think ahead. Is to be intentional about the person that you have children with. And I know some people will argue, well, Sister Tiffany, I had that intention as well. But it didn't work out that way. Just understand this. 1, you shouldn't have sex outside of marriage. That's illegal. And that opens the door for a whole lot of issues to come into your life, including demons. But also understand that if you lay down with a man, you are agreeing to have his child in a sense, okay? It doesn't matter how crazy he is or whatever negative thing you got going with him. And the same is true for men. When you lay down with a person, you are risking having a child with that person. So we can't play the victim and say, well, it wasn't supposed to be like that. There was a hole in the condom, or he took the condom off, or, we tried the pull-out method, but the pull-out method didn't work. I didn't know anything about that pre-stuff. And so, in my ignorance, you still wasn't thinking about that kid. This is how broken families are created, through selfishness. I'm going to say that again. Broken families are created through self-centered thinking. It's created through somebody making the decision to do something that God told them not to do because they saw benefit in their imagination, or another person promised them a benefit and they were trying to achieve that benefit. And so now the kid has to come and live in the realm of your choices, and they have to suffer through the things that you do. So the 3 offices and roles of a father: provider, protector, priest. You got another one. Let me see. Provider, protector, priest. It has always been like that. When you go back to the biblical days, it was like that, right? As a matter of fact, a man had to go to a father. He had to go to a woman's father to ask for his daughter's hand in marriage, or his father would go to that guy's father to ask. And they made sure that this was an integral family. It was all about intentionality. This is one of the things that we lack today is intentionality. We don't think ahead. I remember, and I put my business out there because I'm no longer that monster that I used to be. But I remember being 19 years old. I'm looking for this tab. I call myself open. But I remember being 19 years old and had gotten engaged for the first time in my life. And me and this guy, we broke it off, right? And I remember I broke it off with him because I found out he had caught himself trying to cheat, right? But I remember having a pregnancy scare. As it related to this guy. And I think I had 2 pregnancy scares with that guy. I must have took him back at some point. But I remember having a pregnancy scare. And I remember being on the phone with I had a male friend. There was no romantic ties to this guy. I was on the phone with him, and he was like, counseling me. And I was telling him, I was on the phone disheartened. I was sad. I was crying. I was depressed because I thought I was pregnant. And obviously, I didn't want to be pregnant by the guy, because one of the things that I can say that is a benefit of coming up in a household with 2 parents is that a lot of times you see the benefits of coming up in a household, even if it's dysfunctional. And I love the fact that all of my mother's children were with my dad. My mom did not have children with multiple men. All 3 of my mother's children are with my dad. And that was my plan, my fantasy, my thing, or what have you. And I remember living in that moment and thinking, there's no way that I'm having another kid with this guy. Like, if I'm pregnant, I'm not having another kid with this guy. But that kind of shattered my plans. And that I was living in that reality, like, dang, like I'm about to be a mother. I'm about to be a mother to this guy's kid. And because I think I was really certain that I was pregnant. I'm about to be a mother to this guy's kid. And at the same time, I'm not going back to him. Because my mind was made up. Once I locked myself out of a relationship in my mind was made up. Wasn't no reconciliation. It was a wrap. And I was on the phone with this guy, and y'all, I'm just gonna be honest with you. I thought I was pregnant, but I was just having a bad case of PMS. All right, I thought I was pregnant. I was just having a bad case of PMS. Do me a favor, be sure to like and share. And the reason I know that I was late, I was on the phone with the guy, and he was talking, and he was encouraging me, and I said, "Can you hold on for me for a moment?" And I wasn't saved at the time, but obviously, my dad played piano in church, so I've been going to church my whole life. I just had never confessed Jesus, I don't think. But I remember, I said, "Could you hold on for a minute, please?" And he said, "Okay." So I got off. I put the phone down, and I'm pretty sure he could hear me. I got on my knees, and I said, "Father," and I started crying to God. And I said, "God, don't let me be pregnant by this man, please." And I told God what I wanted. I don't know if I told him in that prayer. I'm pretty sure it was in that prayer, but I told God, I said, I don't want to have kids by multiple men. I want all my children to have the same father. Okay? I want my children to have the same father. I was begging God, please, don't let me be pregnant by this man, please. And I got back on the phone. I remember getting up off my knees and getting back on the phone. I think the guy was kind of laughing, but I was serious. And then when I was getting back on the phone, all of a sudden I felt that familiar feeling. I said, hold on. I threw the phone again. I ran to the bathroom. My period came on. I was like, I was so happy. I didn't know how to act. All right. I did not know how to act because I was happy that I wasn't about to become a single mother. I was happy that I never wanted to have the baby mama dynamic. I never wanted to be somebody's baby's mother. I never wanted to raise a kid in a situation like that where the kid would have to come up and get visitations from the father. It just feels too much like visitation, right? It feels too much like prison. I always wanted the father to be present to raise a kid. So I prayed and I asked the Lord, I said, I don't want to have kids by multiple men. I only want to have kids with the right man. And I think that's why I ain't got kids to this day, because I was too busy out here with the wrong men. That prayer worked. It went up to heaven. It went up to heaven. The Lord heard that prayer. But I prayed that prayer and God heard me. And what happened? So I ended up having my cycle. That was that. And I was able to free myself from that crazy relationship. I want to read something from Helps Word Studies. We're still looking at the word father. The word father in Helps Word Studies, we're going to get into some facts, no worries, is pater. And I know I could be pronouncing it wrong, but Pater. And it means near or more remote. It also means, give me a second, one who imparts, this comes from Helps Word Studies, one who imparts life and is committed to it, a progenitor, bringing into being to pass on the potential for likeness. I need you to hear that word likeness. Likeness is not just physical attributes. I want you to understand that a father, when you decide to have children with a man, you are deciding to allow him to copy and paste himself in your womb. Okay? Some of y'all got children from criminally minded men because you saw that as power. I don't know what I got in my eye, but you saw that as power. You saw that as attractive, and I get it. I had my little phase or what have you, but I came out of it relatively quick. But you got children with men, and you don't understand that that's copy and paste. You have to ask yourself before you lay down with a man. Matter of fact, you shouldn't lay down with a man that you're not married to, but you have to ask yourself, do I want to have him in baby form? I'm not just talking about his looks. I'm not talking about your fantasy of him. I'm talking about the reality of him. Do the world need another one of these peewees? Y'all forgive me, I feel like I got hair in my eye. Do the world need another one of these peewees? All right. Do the world need another one of these? All right. Let's get into some facts. Now, just remember this. In the Bible, fatherless children had no inheritance. Fatherless children had no inheritance from their father because they were considered bastards, okay? The enemy wants your child to be a bastard, right? And it's not to call your kid a name, we're just talking biblically. The enemy wants your children to not have a father figure, and we're going to talk about why, okay? So we're going to start here. Facts. Number one, baby daddy, baby mama culture is demonic. I don't have to explain that. Baby daddy, baby mother culture is demonic. It is not of God because God told us to present our bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is our reasonable service. All right. So the culture within itself is demonic. Boyfriend, girlfriend culture is demonic. You know, you may say, well, Sister Tiffany, how are we supposed to get a husband if we can't be boyfriend and girlfriend? At the end of the day, nobody should have a man should not have the rights of a husband, not even slightly, while dating you. Okay. He should not have the rights of a husband while dating you. Y'all, excuse me for a second. I know it gets weird up in here, but I see the joker. I got that, and that's bothering me. He should not have those rights while dating you. He should not be experienced. There are certain things that you're not supposed to experience. And you can say, well, we can be boyfriend and girlfriend without us doing the things that a lot of boyfriend and girlfriends do. Or what would you call a relationship with two people who are exclusively dating for the purpose of marriage? The thing is, you start off in dating is collecting data, and then you're in a relationship. All right, you're in a relationship. That relationship, you define that relationship from the beginning of it. And what I mean by that, what is your intention for me? What is your intention in general? Okay, what is your intention in general? Your intention could never be, let's see what happens. That is the culture of today. Well, Tiffany, you can't just say that because then I'm not going to be marrying everybody I get on the phone with. Here's the problem. Some of you get on the phone with too many people. I've been single for 12 years. And let me tell you something I've learned in these 12 years. In these 12 years, I've learned that if you get somebody on your phone, first and foremost, you can go ahead and shut that down in the parking lot. Okay? You can go ahead and shut that down in the parking lot. I've asked guys in the parking lot, what is your relationship like with Christ? After they approach me. What is your relationship like with Christ? Right? I don't have to give my phone number out. If they say, oh man, I believe in a man upstairs. Okay, I'm not your wife. I've told y'all that before. I will literally say that to a man. I have said that to men. I'm not your wife. And they're like, man, I don't even know you. I ain't even got your number. I'm like, I'm a wife. I talk the language of a wife. I think like a wife. And so when I'm talking to you, I'm talking as a wife, not a girlfriend. So I'm in here and I'm making it very clear that, hey, you out here in one culture, you speak one language, but the kingdom I'm from, we speak a whole totally different language. So I say, hey, I'm not your wife. Well, how you know? And I told him, I said, you call him a man upstairs. To me, he's Father. He's God. He's my everything. Oh, but you know, I could use a woman like you. Y'all know that language. I could use a woman like you, to help me get closer to him. I said, a wife not called to lead a husband. You should already be there. Yeah, you should already be there. Before you get to the woman, you need to get to him. Y'all know what I talk about. Before you get to the marriage, there are 3 altars you need to get to. That is the altar of salvation. If he ain't there, he ain't for you. The altar of sanctification. If he ain't there, he ain't for you. And the altar of surrender. If he ain't there, he ain't for most of you. All right. Now, there's some people that never surrendered life to Christ, but they'll be Christian. And what I mean by that, they'll go to church, stand in congregation, they'll never put their hands to a plow. And that's going to be your average man. And if that's what you want, that's your thing, right? But an average men go for average women, or they should. But if your goal is to serve the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords all the days of your beautiful life, then you need to put your hand to a plow. And you need to go out here and do what thus said the Lord. And if somebody come up to you and that person has not got to the altar of salvation, that ain't for you. If they're not at the altar of sanctification, if they've not come to the altar of sanctification, the altar of salvation is when you come out of Egypt. The altar of sanctification is when Egypt comes out of you. When Egypt comes out of you. And I can tell many of you when you're not there yet, I'm trying to help you to prevent from reproducing the system that you were born in. If you were born in fatherlessness, from reproducing that. If you are still attracted to thugs or men that can fight, you ain't ready yet. I love you. I really do. But if you still say, I just like, girl, he got to have them hands, but he can't cast out a demon. Girl, he got to have them hands, but he can't heal the sick. He got no power other than the power of his body. His physical nature, you're not ready because you're still out here attracted to children. You're attracted to broken guys. You're attracted to immaturity, which means that you're immature. Or if you're not immature, it means you're a spiritual pedophile. Because sometimes there are women out there that like to, some of you want to talk about the truth. Do me a favor, like and share. We're going to get violent up here. Tell the truth. Some of y'all like men that you have to raise. The reason you like men that you have to raise is because every time you've dated and you got with somebody who had some type of rank, authority, or intellect over you, it didn't work out. So you want somebody that you can custom create and teach them how to be your man. That's why I said I've seen this with some women. Some of y'all go out there and you raise your own Ahab, either that's in a man or in your own kid. Some women will intentionally turn their children into their Ahab, so that they can have that one person that they can control and tell how to think. They can have that one person that can't leave them because they will disable them by taking care of them, by sitting up there and enabling them and being their all in all and their everything, all the while complaining about the fact that the child is useless or complaining about the fact that the man is useless, but will keep him around. Am I telling the truth? Or am I hitting something? Am I telling the truth? I've seen this repeatedly. I can't even realize. I've seen people raise their children and I come to realize that the mother got an Ahab spirit and she raising her child to be an Jezebel. Whether it's a son or a daughter, she raising her child to be a Jezebel because she don't trust nobody else out there to be her Jezebel. And so she will sit up there and raise that kid and will holler that it's general parenting and let that kid knuck if you buck, let that kid yell at her, cuss her out, let that kid roll, and she will get that kid the whole wide world and be running up behind the kid, serving the kid, raising her own homegrown Jezebel. And she would do that in a man as well. All right, she'll do that in a man as well. She come across a man in the world, a man that's not saved. A lot of people, whenever you go out to men in the world, when you are a child of God, is because you deal with rejection and you want to go grab somebody that you can raise up on your own. Okay? I told you you're going to get violent up here. Baby daddy, baby mama culture is demonic number 2. Fatherless children often deal with 2 demonic spirits, the orphan spirit and the spirit of rejection. I'm going to say that again. Fatherless children often deal. These are spirits that are typically that are going to come after those kids. The spirit of rejection is going to say, you weren't good enough. Why did your daddy leave you? Why isn't your daddy a part of your life? Why didn't your dad come to your recital? Why didn't your dad come to your baseball game? Why isn't your dad at your basketball game? That spirit of rejection will sit there and hunt that child and point out, look at all these kids. Look, their daddy came, pick them up. Their daddy came for this. Their daddy came for that. And it sets the stage for a lifestyle of rejection. Rejected people reject people and choose rejected folks. So they go into a cycle of rejection. Rejection is more than a spirit. It's a stronghold. It's a cycle. All right. It's more than a spirit. It's a stronghold. It's a cycle. So a lot of people that deal with rejection, what they end up doing is they find themselves attracted to other rejected people. They find, because you can relate to them. You can relate to them. I understand what you've been through. I understand when it comes down to your situation, because I was in a similar situation, because you can relate to them. But the thing about rejection is that it won't let you keep what you catch. Well, the thing about the spirit of rejection is that it's going to allow you to be in a relationship for so long, and then you're going to constantly feel rejected. In the house of the person, you feel rejected. You're going to make that person feel rejected. You will weaponize their rejection against them. They will weaponize your rejection against you. And so consequently, that becomes it becomes like your cat call in a demonic household. It becomes your cat call. I'm not getting enough attention. Let me see if they're trying to see right. There we go. Did it come out a little bit? It went out a little bit. All right. It becomes your cat call in a demonic household. There we go. Yeah. All right. Yeah. We cooking with fish grease. All right. It becomes your cat call in a demonic household. Whereas I'm telling you from a person who dealt with rejection. I was married, and when I was married and I was dealing with that spirit, if I didn't feel seen, if I didn't feel heard, if I didn't feel anything, I will say I was a heavy communicator, right? I will say that I was a good communicator, a heavy communicator, the whole nine. But a lot of times I didn't know how to communicate. I didn't know how to communicate. Hey, I feel this way. I feel that way. What have you? So what I would do is I would do like a lot of women. I go up and do what you doing, or start arguing. You watching that game all the time. You always watching the game, and I created a lot of fights. One thing I've always said about rejection is that you will always make the person, goodness, I did it again. You will always make the person, let's see if I can do this. You will always make the person, this is funny to me. There we go. You will always make the person that you're with feel rejected while not intending to do it. And again, you will do it as a weapon as well. Typically, whenever you're dealing with rejection, a lot of times you would threaten people with divorce. Y'all quiet up in here. Am I telling the truth? Am I telling the truth? Am I telling the truth? You would threaten people with breakup. You're weaponizing their rejection against them, and they will weaponize their rejection against you. When you're in a rejected household, you're constantly talking about breaking up. I used to be that person that, when I got mad, if the thing wasn't resolved or what have you, I would say stuff like, you can go get the papers. You can go get the papers. I'll sign. I remember my ex had to say, I don't need you to use that word in this household anymore. I was like, use that word. He said divorce. But because of rejection, that's what I knew. I knew how to break up. I knew how to let go of somebody and grieve them on the go. I knew how to do that. But one thing I didn't know how to do was sit through some stuff. I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know how to overcome and sit through some stuff. But fatherless children often deal with two demonic spirits, the orphan spirit and the spirit of rejection. These are spirits that you're going to want to have to get cast out, but you're going to have to also learn to live without them. You're going to have to learn to come outside of the patterns that they've taught, the strongholds that they've taught, the systems that you were part of. Like a system it involves like action, reaction. Action, reaction is a domino effect. So you have to learn how, for example, to deal with offense. I got a healthy communication course coming up. I think you should register for it. All right. If you come out of that type of household, just a little commercial break. If you come out of that type of household, I think you should register for this course. I think you should register for this course before we fill up. But you should register for this course so that you can learn healthy communication. I had to learn how to healthily communicate. I had a lot of it down packed because I came in a household where I was more outspoken and what have you. Whenever people did something wrong, I would just be honest about it. Nevertheless, I still had to learn healthy communication. All right. I don't know if the moderators are still on here, but if you could post a link to the healthy communication course, please, please, please. If not, I'll post it before this ends. Number 3, Satan removes a father so he can act as a father. The course starts April 18th. It's going to be a 4-week course where I'm going to be teaching men and women. We've had probably 60 people to register already. I'm going to be teaching both men and women. Thank you, Patrice. God bless you, beautiful. Oh, she posted a cash up. But I'm going to be teaching both men and women how to have relationships and have healthy communication, because I've learned while having people walk closely with me, I've learned that a lot of people don't know how to healthily communicate. I've had many times where I've had to have hard conversations with people because they'll do something. Like I was talking one day about, I was telling one of my students, I was like, one of the things I don't like is when somebody, for example, checks my temperature. I said, I don't like when people do that. I said, a person does something offensive and they know it's offensive. And then instead of apologizing, we get off the phone or what have you, and then they just kind of randomly start sending me text messages. And they be like, how was your day? How you feeling today? Or they'll say, hey, did you see this video? And in that, they're checking my temperature, right? They're trying to see, are you really upset with me? Are you still upset with me? I don't like it when people do that because I like direct communication. I love it when a person sits back and says, you know what? I did something wrong. Let me reach out and say, hey, I'm sorry for what I did or anything like that. I don't like it when people do that. And I remember something that she said. She said, well, that's a trauma response. And I was like, you're right, it is. I said, it's definitely a trauma response. And I told her, thank you for saying that, because while I know it's a trauma response, and I'm trying to find the link, while I know it's a trauma response, I'm just talking about the thing that people do, but it is a trauma response. Sorry. Well, that's for the students. Okay. It is a trauma. We got 64 registrants. So that means we got 30 something seats left at the early bird special. So just so you know, the early bird special gives you 50% off. It's $199, but the early bird special gives it to you for $99. All right, let me go back over where y'all at. I had to go find a link. Sister Patrice already got the link up. Okay. That's the link for the healthy communication course. I'll paste it as well here. So it goes to both YouTube and Instagram. But that's the link to the healthy communication course. Yeah, 30 something seats left, or 36 seats left. I think we got 36 seats left at that discount. And after that, it goes up to the regular price. All right. It goes up to the regular price. I told her, I said, she was like, that's a trauma response. And I said, it really is. It is a trauma response. And it comes from a lot of people being born in households where the parents was narcissistic, dysfunctional, unhealed, bipolar, broken, and the kid kind of tiptoed, walked on eggshells, what have you, and they just kind of peeped around the corner to see if mama was still mad. And I said, that's one of the things that I don't care for. I said, because for me, at the end of the day, I'm more of a direct communicator, and I love it when a person just reaches out to me and says, hey, did I offend you? Or, hey, what I said yesterday, I know it was offensive, or what I did yesterday, I know it was offensive, and I want to apologize. That to me is love. But when this person's peeping around the corner and pulling those other stuff, to me, it just feels like a bunch of games and manipulation, right? Not being accountable, and at the same time, not wanting to apologize, which tells me that they're going to reoffend, and they're going to continue in the behavior, and they're just trying to see, how are you? Like, it's almost like a training. How are you? You still there? You got rid of me yet? You didn't kick me to the curb yet? But we got to deal with that in the course. I want to teach you different ways to respond. All right. I want to teach you different ways to respond to trauma, or to overcome that trauma response and have a proper response. What have you? It's going to be really good. It's going to be really good. All right. So we were talking about number 3, Satan removes the father so he can act as the father. The father is the head of the house. Okay. The head, that's the authority. So what the enemy does is he removes the head so he can become the head. He can become the authority figure. He encourages promiscuity. He encourages fornication. He encourages just these behaviors that are not of God so that the person can get pregnant, because the enemy don't mind you getting pregnant. The enemy wants you to get pregnant for several reasons, right? He wants you to not, he wants you to get pregnant so that he can raise up children for himself. Children without fathers. We just talked about the statistics or what have you. He can raise up an army for himself. That's one of the reasons he doesn't mind you getting pregnant. A second reason that he doesn't mind you getting pregnant is so that you can abort the child, so that you can have blood on your hands, so that you can go ahead and you can start slaughtering children, and he can have a greater accusation against you. Another reason that he doesn't mind you getting pregnant is that he understands, and this is gonna get some of you, right? If I can get you to have children, multiple children with the wrong man, you got 3 kids by 3 different dudes. By the time you meet the right man, you won't have the ability to give him a kid because you'll be inside your tubes. You hear what I just said? You will give your best years to the wrong men. And by the time you mature, when you're ready for a relationship, when you're ready for marriage, you've been through your womb out. So now you can't give him a legacy. Now you can't give him anything because you gave kids to the wrong guy. You gave kids to the wrong guy or the wrong guys. And so now you got the right man. Now he has to come in and help you to raise kids that are not his own because you were making choice. So this is why the enemy don't mind you getting pregnant. I want you to understand that the enemy thinks ahead while you're thinking in the moment. See, passion is for the moment. Lust is for the moment. The enemy thinks ahead. So he thinks along the line, because that's true warfare. True warfare doesn't think in the moment. That's reckless fighting. True warfare thinks ahead. So how can I destroy a generation of people? Let me make sure that this woman will eventually, who may meet her husband, may meet her man of God someday. Let me make sure that she's not healed. She's not able to give him a legacy. Let me catch her in her brokenness. Let me catch her in her immaturity. Let me catch her in these years where I can delay her husband, potentially even make it where she can never meet him. And even if she does meet him, I want to make sure that she throw her womb out. By the time that he comes there, she can't give him a legacy. Being an almost 40-year-old baby mama is crazy, right? Right. Satan moves the father so he can become the father. Number 4, fatherless children often have identity issues. Fatherless children often have identity issues. Now, for those of you who are mothers, I know that it can be a bit jarring to hear this kind of stuff. And, it's not something that something new I'm saying. It can sound offensive. It can be hurtful, but you can help to turn the tides for your child by, making sure they get a strong relationship with God, counseling, and that you're not bringing in new dudes, and re-injuring them all over again. One of the things that I got a chance to see, and I can tell you this is traumatic. When my mom and dad broke up, man, it changed my view of both of them. Because I never saw them as single parents. Very bad. I saw them as they were married, right? Even though they were not good to each other, I never saw them as single parents. And when they became single, baby, they started making some raggedy decisions. Okay? They started making some raggedy decisions. My mom's first boyfriend, she got a boyfriend with her and my dad was going through a divorce, was an old guy. He's a gospel singer. He's actually pretty popular down in Mississippi. An old guy, a gospel singer. She went, and this man was so old that he was her dad's best friend. My mom used to love him old. She used to love the old guy. I don't know why, but she loved him old and in church. She just loved the old Baptist feel. She went got herself an old guy, and I remember us making fun of him. And that relationship didn't work out because the old guy, my mom dated this guy for years. The old guy, while he was a gospel singer, was messing with a married woman. True story. Was messing with a married woman. The married woman started stalking my mom. I don't be want to put my business out here, but it is what it is. It's true. Right? She would call our house, and I get on the phone with her, and I cuss that woman out. I used to cuss her some type of out. Right? And I don't want to say her husband had an issue. I don't want to say what his issue is because I think it too much information could it'll help designate who it is, and I ain't trying to do all that. He wasn't real popular, so most of you probably wouldn't know him, but he was relatively popular. He was a part of a singing group, all of that kind of stuff. But that was it. So I saw that. And then I saw my mom go out there and get herself another boyfriend who had been married 5 times. And she got another dude. After the old guy, my mom got this other dude, a real big, heavy set dude. And this is the first time we caught my mom trying to be grown in the house. I came out of my bedroom. Y'all forgive me. I just be telling these stories because they're funny to me. But I came out of my bedroom and I was 16 years old, 15 to 16 years old. I'm waking up in the morning. I'm heading to the bathroom. I have my morning bathroom usage or what have you, in the morning pee. And I'm heading to the bathroom and I saw my mom's door was cracked. Her bedroom door. She never closed her bedroom door, but it kind of closed, but it's cracked. So as I'm passing by, I see this man sitting on a chair in her bedroom, sitting in front of her bed, and he don't got a shirt on. He got his pants on, whatever. He just sitting there. And I didn't know what to do. I took my foot and I kicked her door with all my might. Boom. And Mama said, "What is wrong with you?" And I just looked at her, mean bugged it. I went into the bathroom. I'm like, "Oh, how do you see that? How do you see that?" I went into the bathroom and I came out. I went in my room and I slammed my door. And my little sister, I don't know if that woke her up, and she came out of her room. And it's funny, that man left because he thought something wrong with my mom's kids. Because my sister, she comes out of the room. When she go up in there, she see it. She opened the door, she see it. She hit the floor, and I think she's like 13. No, she was 13 at that time. If I was 16, she was 9. She come out, she hit the floor, and she started rolling around on the floor and crying and kicking the door. And so the guy had to leave or what have you. But it is something to see. For those of you who never seen that, pray that never happens, to see your mother and dad out here trying to date people and even bringing people into the house and all that kind of stuff. I ain't gonna even tell you the stuff that I got a chance to experience or what have you. But I was like, "Mama, you don't do that. That's messed up." Number 4, studies show that children from fatherless homes make up 85% of youths in prison and are 20 times more likely to be incarcerated. You're sorry to hear that. Pray and ask God to send a positive role model, and pray, test the spirit of that guy, but make sure you pray and ask God. But studies show that children from fatherless homes make up 85% of youths in prison and are 20 times more likely to be incarcerated. I have to say this because I already know pride is going to be in here, and some of you are going to be like, "Well, it's going to be different for me, Tiffany. I ain't going to do that with my children." This sweet young lady says she's being careful with her 2 children. And I highly recommend, if you do have children, you do have to be careful. It is never a good idea to introduce your children to different people, because we were being introduced to different people. That kind of jacked us up, right? We started getting jacked up later on in life, but that kind of jacked us up a little bit because I'm watching my mom. Now, my dad, I didn't care. I didn't get a chance to see it. I knew about his different girlfriends, and then he ultimately married a really young lady. But on my mom's side, I'm living in the house with her. So she dated this other guy. She ended up dating this other guy for some years, and he was a pastor. Well, a pastor without a church. And I remember I was talking. I wasn't even saved. Was I saved? I don't think I was saved at the time, but I knew better. And I was like, "Mom, how he a pastor and he's sleeping with you? He come over here and stay the night. How he a pastor?" And my mom was like, "Well, we're all human." And what did my mom say? "He won't touch me on Saturdays." Said that man told her he was not going to touch her on a Saturday. Baby, when I tell you I clowned that man so bad, he said he wouldn't touch her on a Saturday because he couldn't preach right on Sunday. He told me he couldn't touch her on Saturday. He couldn't preach right on Sunday. When I tell you I did not like that man. When I was in the world, I'm going to tell you I loved God even there to the best of my ability. I did not like a hypocrite at all. I did not like a hypocrite. I did not like a hypocrite. I did not like a hypocrite. I would not speak to that man. And this is when I discovered that my mother was an idol worshiper. Like, my mom idolized the man that she was in a relationship with. I never saw her like that while she was with my dad. But she idolized the guys that she got herself in a relationship with. But I remember that this guy would come over there and he would not speak. He did not like my mom's kids. He would come over there And I come home from work. And I come home from by the time she got with him, I was out of school. And I come home from work or what have you, and he just be sitting up in the living room talking to mom. He was ignoring me. My mom's like, "You're not gonna speak." I said, "He got him out." Now I'm gonna tell you something. I was never the kid to talk back to my parent. Out of all three of them, I'm the respectful child. Okay, I'm the one that I never talk back to my parents. And there's things I just won't do, never do, will never do to this day. But I will say that I said he got him out. All right, your mouth work, right? He got him out because I didn't like that. I hated seeing that side of my mother, but at the same time, I wasn't going to cater to that dude. I was just like, absolutely not. But he didn't have a physical church. He was a pastor where he went to prisons and ministered to prisoners. But either way, and then I think he went to some churches to pastor and to minister at times. And I used to say he fake. I would tell my mom all the time, he fake. I had no respect for him. I had zero respect for him. Zero respect for him. Because even in the midst of all of that, even when I was in the world, by the grace of God, one of the benefits of having a father, one of the benefits, my dad, when I was younger, my dad raised us in the Lord. My dad read the Bible to us. Okay. My dad took us to church. My parents took us to church and what have you, but my dad read the Bible. He came, gave us Bible study all the time. Me and my brother shared a room at one point. He would come give us Bible study. I would be awake and engaged. My brother would be up there knocked out, right? And I asked questions. He had the children's Bible where there were questions at the back, and he would ask the questions, and I would be so happy to answer the questions. And so, thankfully, as a young lady, as a kid, I started loving God. I just didn't know how to love him, and I wanted him. But at the same time, I've never been a fan of the fake, ever. I've never been a fan of the fake. That's the worst thing you can be to me as a fake Christian. That's the worst thing you could be to me, is somebody who pretends to love God and be a whole wolf in sheep's clothing, which is one of the reasons why, as a young lady, I didn't like going to church. Because I got tired of all these fake people being around me. I wanted a real Christian. And when I came in contact, I remember working at Walmart. There was these two women there. And my friends used to ask me, this is before I got saved. They'd be like, why you don't like this such and such? Why you don't like this such and such? I said, because they fake. I didn't like them women. Because they used to, both of them, they would be like, glory to his name. Hallelujah. Jesus. Woo! And I used to just kind of look at them, and I didn't like them. But I would say, because they fake. Because I didn't understand what was the need for all that. And when I actually did meet a child of God, that lady changed my life. I'm going to get back in the message. But that lady changed my life. When I finally did meet a woman of God, God put that woman as an assistant manager over my department. She was a 24-year-old virgin. At this time, I'm like 19 or 20 years old. You got to understand, she was a wonder to me. She was a wonder to me. And to see how she moved, I studied her. I asked her questions. God strategically put her in my life as my assistant manager so that I could see what it looked like. Because growing up in Mississippi, where there's a lot of religiousness, you see people dancing, shouting, clapping, running, but they'll cuss you out in the parking lot. Right? They'll cuss you out in the parking lot. They'll be sitting up there. And I remember one thing that I saw heavily in the black church. Y'all ain't gonna want to talk about this. I can say growing up, especially when I became a young lady, whenever I would visit, old woman jealousy and insecurity. Rather than trying to win a soul for the Lord, them older women, sometimes they would just be sitting up there and they would cast judgment upon you so bad. They would cast judgment upon you so bad, you need to pull that skirt down. My skirt covers my knees. My skirt this, my skirt that. Not all of them, but my dad played pianos for churches. So my dad got hired to go around and play pianos for churches. So I went with my dad. Me and my family went with my dad to these different churches or what have you. And that's one thing that I did not like is that. Now you have some older women that would be corrective, and I used to love them. I knew the difference. I would say to an extent I knew the difference because they moved in love or what have you. But the ones that were trying to embarrass you, the ones that were just ugly, I didn't want to have anything to do with that. And drinking moonshine out of church, right? Those ones that were being cheated on by their husband. and they will treat you some type of way because they're insecure, because they're afraid that their husband might look at you. You know, I didn't like them women, because I'm just like, why don't you just lead that joker instead of sitting up here getting into your bag of insecurity? All right, number 5. Studies show that children with absent fathers face higher resistance. Higher risk, not resistance. I can't. Studies show that children with absent fathers face higher risk of having behavioral disorders. Narcissistic personality disorder, a lot of these disorders, your children, whenever you're having children outside of marriage, they are at higher risk of developing those disorders. Remember I told you that Satan cuts off the head so he can become the head, and if he becomes the head, he's gonna make everybody crazy. If he becomes the head, he's gonna make everybody crazy. Number 6, fatherless children are more likely to drop out of school than others. Number 7, fatherless children are more likely to abuse drugs than others. Number 8, many women who engage in premarital sex are trying to fill a void of an absent or abusive father. Many of you who engage in premarital sex, you're trying to fill the void of an absent father. You're trying to fill the void. You're trying to find some male figure to come in and to be to you what your father was not. You're looking for daddy, which is why I'm sorry to say this. A lot of these terms, zaddy and stuff like that, I call it what it is. A lot of that stuff comes from it comes from a bunch of women who dealt with fatherless who sexualize older men. And they sexualize older men because typically the men in the generation that they are part of, or the men they keep falling into the laps or beds of, are broken. They tend to objectify women. They got their issues, and then they come and they see the generation beforehand where you saw increased marriages and what have you. You saw these guys who are calling out the young guys, and they find themselves, attracted to them. Matter of fact, you go on TikTok, a lot of young women are attracted to older men. A lot of young women are attracted to older men. And the reason that they're attracted to older men has everything to do with an absent father. And a lot of times when an older man goes after younger women, you probably don't want to hear this. It has nothing to do with him loving you. It has everything to do with him not being developed in his own prefrontal lobe. He is still broken, and he's still stuck at a certain age in his maturity. And the expectation of an older woman is a bit too high. He can't afford that. So he will go after a young woman who has not developed yet, who does not have standards. Her standards are not that high. And he'll come in, and he knows that she will esteem him and put him in a role, or put him on a pedestal that he has yet to earn. Because she'll go into her imagination, and she'll imagine him being this great and wonderful man, this great and wonderful husband. She'll imagine him being everything that she's ever wanted in a father, and he gets to live in that reality until the truth comes out. And sometimes living in that reality, some people can fake it for months or years. I found that most of the times when people break up and you out here acting crazy, you're not grieving the actual person. You're grieving what you believed you had with that person. Remember I told you in the beginning parts, a lot of relationships are just fanatical, or they're just fantasy. A lot of relationships, you fantasize about him being a certain way, and you thought that was what you had with him, and you fought with him, you argued with him, but in reality, you were in love with who he pretended to be, or who you thought he was, or who he had the potential to become. And so a lot of times when people are grieving, they're grieving a good man when the man was never a good man in the first place. Or they're grieving a good woman. There are guys that grieve a good woman, and they never had the good woman. They never had the woman that she pretended to be. It's funny to me. I find human behavior kind of funny. I see the woman that's broken, narcissistic. I'm talking about a hot mess of a woman. Go on an interview, and she's like, hi. Or when she go into a space, how she can just kind of portray herself as somebody different. Like we live in a culture of actors. She's able to walk into the room. Hi, yes, I'm efficient in Microsoft Office, and my standards, my morals, I believe this, I believe that, and she just sits there and says all the right things. But it turns out she's not even a woman that she's pretending to be. Or the guy's not the man that they're pretending to be. Most breakups are nothing but wake ups. Most breakups are just you having a moment of sobriety where you come to realize that the man in your head is not the man in your face. Come on, let's just be honest about it. Most breakups are you just coming to that moment where you realize that the man in your head ain't the man in your face. You done got married to him. You done spent 3 years, 5 years, 7 years. You got kids with the guy. And you wake up one day and realize this ain't even who I thought he was. And you don't, if I can tell you the truth, because I know there are a lot of people on here that you would rather be a victim than to come to realize that you deceived yourself. But to tell you the truth, he didn't even lie to you and say he wasn't the mom. He didn't even lie to you and pretend to be a certain person. You just fell in love with the man in your mind. I always say you marry your fantasy of a person, but you divorce their reality. You fell in love with the picture in your mind, the image in your mind. That was you. You played a movie in your mind, and that was you. You had that movie playing, and you tried to make him fit into the role. And anytime he wasn't acting a part, you just thought he needed a few more acting classes, so you took him to church. You took him to church. You shared a few videos on your page. You did everything. You found every male influencer that talked to what a husband ought to be. You tried to talk a demon out of being a demon. You tried to talk that man into being something that he was not. And then one day, the lie, you couldn't even cover your eyes anymore. One day, the truth was just sitting there in your face. It just sitting there in your face. You couldn't lie to yourself anymore. You couldn't gaslight yourself anymore. You couldn't love bomb yourself anymore. You couldn't manipulate yourself anymore. The truth was just sitting in your face. And then you have the audacity to act as if you were deceived. You weren't deceived. You were willfully deceived by yourself. You were willfully deceived by yourself. You told yourself that he's a good man, Savannah. You told yourself that if you took him to church, he'd be a better person. You told yourself that if you had a kid with him, he would straighten up. You told yourself all that. Again, number 7, fatherless children are more likely to abuse drugs than others. Number 8, many women who engage in premarital sex are trying to fill the void of an absent or abusive father. That's where we were, I think, last. Many women who engage in premarital sex are trying to fill the void of an absent or abusive father. And typically, remember what I told you, a void is a black hole in the soul. It is emptiness in the soul. The Bible tells us that God is light, a void is nothing but darkness, right? Remember Genesis, when God created the heavens and the earth, and the earth was without form and it was void. And God said, how did he deal with the void? He didn't say, let me shape this earth round. He didn't sit back and say, let me take my hand. He said, let there be light. That's how he deals with a void. Void is emptiness. It is darkness. It is emptiness in the soul. Now, every last one of your voids are God's size. They can only be filled by the light of God, the revelation of God, the wisdom of God. It's the only thing that can fill a void. But yet and still, the average person to this day is out there trying to fill a void with people, which is why a lot of people are getting consumed. A lot of people are getting hurt because a lot of you don't realize that your friendships, even with your parents, you are a void filler. Some parents had children, and their children to them are nothing but void fillers, which is why you can't satisfy them, because a void is like an empty stomach. All right, it is a bottomless pit. There is nothing that can satisfy but God. So you'll have people that will take you and toss you into the void of their soul, and nothing you do, you can all the performance you do, you can be as performative as you want to be. It'll never be enough. It'll never be enough. You'll be sitting up there dancing. until you finally realize what happened with a lot of children. Like I said, you got to exit the relationship you thought you had with the parent and begin to build the relationship that you actually have with the parent, right? And that way you can say, okay, I got a relationship with this parent where the parent is absent from my life. The parent pops up whenever they want to have some dealings with me. The parent got this pattern, that habit. This way you can go ahead and create boundaries, right? Number 9, many, if not most women who engage in premarital sex bear children for 3 reasons. It's going to get offensive up in here. I told you going to get offensive up in here because I love you. Parents use children as void fillers. Basically, it's definitely a hamster wheel. It's just trying to make themselves feel better, because a void is your soul crying out for God. Wherever there is in God, there's going to be a void. That's your soul crying out for God. Whenever there's hunger, it's like if I've been eating Cheetos and cookies and sweet, whenever I'm hungry, that's what the void in my stomach, the emptiness in my stomach is going to call out for. A lot of people who don't understand that void has a gravitational pull called attraction. Whenever that void starts to cry out, whenever you start to feel empty, whenever you feel like I want somebody to love, I want to be loved, a lot of times your imaginations come into play. And in your imagination, you may start to fantasize about what can feel. That's what I call demonic commercials. This is when demons put things in your mind. That's why the Bible says, casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, and bring every thought captive to the obedience of Christ. The enemy can put an imagination in your mind as to what it takes to fill the void. This whenever there's a void is darkness. It is an empty place in the soul. And remember, the devil has dominion over darkness. All right. The devil has dominion over darkness. And so wherever there's darkness, there's going to probably be demons. And the thing about it is, why a lot of times when demons are cast out through the mechanism of deliverance, they end up coming back, because a person never feels void. They never go get the light of God, the revelation of God, the word of God. They never go get that. So instead, they just come back, and that emptiness is still there. And again, demons have dominion over darkness. They have dominion over ignorance. And so consequently, what ends up happening is you have a lot of people that go out there and they will use their children as void fillers. Like I've had women that sit back and say they want to have children without no husband. And the reason they want to have children is because they want love. They're not wanting to have kids so they can love. They want to have kids so they can have somebody to love them back. Somebody they can't get away from them. Somebody they can't get up and pack their bags and leave. Somebody they can't file for divorce. Somebody they can't get a restraining order. They want to have a person that is actually subject to them that can't leave. All right, that's where the void comes in. Is you have a lot of people that just want relationships with people that can't leave them, and even in that, they come to realize that their children still aren't enough, and so they end up mismanaging, mistreating their children, and even exploiting their children. I've learned this: whenever a person has an expectation attached to you, even though you didn't agree to be that void filler, that person can begin to despise you, even hate you, become angry with you, because they feel like you deceived them, even though you never said you could be that void filler. But in their mind, in their imagination, in a movie that's playing in their head, they imagine you being there all in all. They imagine you coming into their life and making their life better, making their life easier. And then whenever you come into their life, especially after they had you for a while, and they come to realize that you can't be that, you never were that, then they'll replace you or displace you. That's why you have a lot of men that cheat on their wives, a lot of women that cheat on their husbands. It's because they were looking for something. They had some type of imagination, some type of void, and they were looking for that person to fill that void, to fill a certain role. And when that person could not fill that role, whenever they dealt with perpetual disappointment as related to that person, and not that the person did something wrong, it had everything to do with the spouse thinking, well, maybe, my spouse is broken. They're not giving me everything I want. And then they start looking at other people in their marriages, and they hear how great their marriages are. And they think, well, maybe I chose the wrong spouse. And they go out there and start cheating because they think that I need a replacement because the one that I got isn't good enough. That's not the case. Before you get married, I want you to hear me when I say this. Before you get married, before you even start dating, you should have those voids filled. You should not bring a person into a relationship with you until you've been made whole. I'm not saying you got to be perfect. I'm saying you got to be healed, mature, and intentional. Heard that? Healed, mature, and intentional. Healed, mature, and intentional. And that's the type of partner you want to have, somebody that's healed, mature, and potential. intentional. Not saying that you got to be 1,000% healed. I think that I think healing comes in layers and levels. I think that, you know, sometimes you can think you're healed and then you find places that have to heal. And I think over the course of time, you know, there are some levels of healing you get. But I think that you should be at a certain degree, all right, of healing. At the same time, I think that you need to be teachable. I think that you need to be correctable. I think that you need to be intentional. All right. And other than that, what you'll end up doing, you'll choose a person based on your brokenness. And whenever you choose a person based on your brokenness, it's inevitable they're gonna disappoint you. And it's not that they did something wrong, it's just that you're expecting something from them that they never promised you. So when some of you get married and you say, I don't know if I'm in love with him anymore. You never would. There's no such thing as being in love, number one. Number two, you never did truly love the man. The reason that you feel that way is because you had a sobering moment where you realized that he can't be your all in all. But if you're ignorant, you still think that there's somebody out there that can be your all in all. And so consequently, you discount the man that you have at home and you start placing value on the man that you're not in a relationship with. Because you think that man got it going on. You think that he can bring what you need into a relationship, and then you end up doing something stupid, ruining that relationship, and now you with another man. I say this, and I'm gonna move on, but and it's gonna get violent up in here. Just remember that. I've told this before. When it comes down to my grandmother, like I look at my mom's side of the family, Mrs. Math, thank you for the cash up. God bless you. When I look at my mother, I know a lot of the poor choices that she made came from her mother. Right? A lot of poor choices I made came from my mother. It was something that continued to spread until you got to address it. I had to address it. I had to break some stuff. But my grandmother left her husband for his friend. Right? Left for the neighbor, left for his friend. My grandmother likely looked at my granddad as a boy filler. One of the things that I've been against, because I see my parents' relationship was this and my grandparents' relationship was this, I'm not a fan of aesthetic relationships. And what I mean by that is relationships solely built on beauty standards. Relationships solely built on beauty standards and potential. Foolishness. So what I mean by that, I believe my granddaddy left my grandma, I think he left his first wife for my grandmother. I have no evidence of this, it's just a suspicion of mine based on the story that I know. My granddad was married before, had 2 children with his first wife. That was unheard of back then for a man to leave his wife. Unheard of, absolutely. Especially if he had children with his wife, it was unheard of in the South, all that. And then my grandmother had a history of running away. She came up in a fatherless household. She had a history, according to my mom, of running away with dudes when she was younger. And she ended up having to be raised by the neighbor because of her behavioral issues. I just so happen to believe that my granddaddy, who was 19 years older than my grandmother, happened to be wandering around someday. He laid out to my grandma. My grandma was a beautiful woman. My grandma was a beautiful woman. Beautiful. She didn't know how to read or write. She was perfect. Because a lot of guys like women that are beautiful and ignorant at the same time because they ain't got to worry about her leaving. So my granddad went out there. He saw this young woman. He got her. He spoiled her. He did all the stuff. He gave her everything she wanted. He gave her the world and then some. But then when my granddad got older, because there was a 19-year age difference, he started having early onset Alzheimer's. And the man next door, his wife died. And next thing you know, him and my grandmother were seeing each other. My granddad, regardless of all the stuff that he gave my grandmother, he could never be enough because he could never feel that void in my grandmother. He had his void too, but he could never be enough. So she left my granddad for somebody else. And when she left for that somebody else turned out to be a flat out narcissist, psychopath. Flat out narcissist, psychopath. That man had my grandmother under full control. The way he did her, Lord. But what I'm saying is this, that's what demons do. They will always make you feel like there's going to be something better outside of the relationship that you have. But I have yet to see it. I've never seen it, nor will I ever see it. I've never seen a man leave his wife for another woman and get something better. It can appear to be better on the outside. I've never seen a woman leave her husband and get somebody better. I haven't seen it. It is always chaotic. The next relationship, when you leave a relationship and you've done wrong in the other relationship, you set the stage. It's always chaotic. It's always chaotic. All right, this is where we get violent. All right, do me a favor. This is where we get violent. All right, number 9. Many, if not most women who engage in premarital sex bear children for 3 reasons. I didn't say all women. I said many. Before we get the womb warriors up in here, all right. Many, if not most women who engage in premarital sex bear children for 3 reasons. A, to keep the guy that they idolize. Some women have children in an attempt to keep the man. And I've known plenty of women who've done that. Okay? You know plenty of women do that. Had a kid with the guy with the intention of keeping him. Realistically speaking, there are some women that have intentionally got pregnant because they were trying to keep the guy. There are some women that they were engaging in premarital sex with a guy, wearing a condom, was trying to use what they call the pull-out method, and the woman went out of her way to make sure that he didn't pull. She went out of her way to make sure that he got locked up in there. I said this to I think I was in a world one time. I think I was in a world. I had a guy friend, and he was talking about, him and his girlfriend or something, or some woman, and how he didn't want kids and she wanted kids and he wasn't ready for kids, but they were having sex and he was using the pull out. I said, oh, welcome to fatherhood. He said, what you mean? He said, I said, bro, I'm gonna tell you something. If I decided I wanted a kid, regardless of what they guys say, I'm gonna get a kid. I said, I'm a girl. He said, what you mean by that? I said, it's simple. If a woman want to have your kid, she gonna have your kid. If a woman make it up in her mind that she want to get pregnant by you and you silly enough, I said, welcome to fatherhood. Right. I said, welcome to fatherhood. That's all I can tell you. I'll get you a pack of diapers and stuff like that. I don't like baby showers that much, so I'm probably not gonna stay too long. I'm just gonna drop off the gift, give me some baby shower meatballs and I'm gonna head on out. But welcome to fatherhood. Many, if not most women who engage in premarital sex bear children for 3 reasons. A, to keep the guy they idolize. B, to compete with other women who may have mothered children by the same man. Oh, some people left up out of here. I hear edges falling. I hear the sound of edges falling. Some of y'all got kids because you were competing with women who had kids with a man. Because you felt like that woman was more important in his sight because she had kids. And I know people who've done that. All right. So I know this is a real thing. All right. I'm just, even though I grew up going to church, daddy playing the piano, I wasn't churched. Okay. Because I pulled out of church when I was 8 years old and my parents gave me the green light to go back as I wanted to. So I was not at church. We don't talk about that stuff out loud. I've learned, you know what I learned in today's traditional church? There are certain things you're not supposed to say out loud, like y'all consider they're rude. Like that's mean. You're not supposed to say the truth out loud. You're only supposed to say those things in green rooms and dark rooms, but you're not supposed to say that stuff out loud because then y'all like, ooh, that wasn't nice. To compete with other women who may have mothered children by that same man. You know why y'all quiet on here? You know why you quiet on here? It's because some of y'all had kids by a man just to compete with another woman. And I know this not even a white thing. This is actually very common. It's actually very common. Is you competing with another woman that have kids with that guy, may have been pregnant by that guy, and you feel like she got a special role in his life because you watching him go over there to visit his children, and you get jealous and you end up getting yourself pregnant or getting pregnant by him with the intent of competing with that woman. I won't say that kind of stuff out loud. All right, we won't say that out loud. And C, for monetary purposes. Some of you have children because you're trying to get child support out of the man, or you're trying to get child support out of the system. We've known plenty of women. You got some women that'll be in the comment section and they'll say, well, they don't, I doubt if anybody does that to get money out of the system because the system don't pay that much. You got women out there that don't care that the system don't pay that much. They still getting free money. That's how they look at it. They don't even feed the kids with the food stamps they get. I was talking to somebody the other day, and I was telling her about that, and she's not necessarily from this country, so she didn't know that people sell their food stamps. I said, yeah. I grew up in a community where that was common. I said, somebody got $500 food stamp will sell you a book for $400, sometimes $350. They will sell you their food stamps because they wanted to go out there and shop with the money. They didn't want to buy food for their kids. They fed their kids noodles, hot dogs, and what else was there? Was it noodles, hot dogs, just simple foods? And they use that money to go to the club to buy themselves, to get their hair done. They use that money to go get dressed up. Y'all don't want me to talk about that kind of stuff. I tell you the truth. I know when I play these type of videos, when I'm teaching on this kind of stuff, I know that I'm messing with some people, because there are people in this room right now that you had kids for that same reason. It was monetary purposes and still not feeding those kids. You give them just enough to survive. Do just enough to survive. Mac and cheese, right? They give them kids whatever they can give those kids to survive so that they can take that money and go get their hair done. They can take that money and go to the club, take that money and get them a fifth of liquor, fourth of liquor, third of liquor, second of liquor, first of liquor, whatever. They do it for monetary purposes, and they also do it for tax season. Them kids don't have a mother. Them kids got somebody that they living with. Kids hungry all outdoors, and they had to eat a pack of noodles every single day of their life. I remember having people in my family like that. One thing I can say that I really, 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 I'm so grateful for my mom about this. My mom was really intentional about raising her kids. You know, mom had her issues, right? You know, but I don't think she was a bad mother. I think she was amazing in so many retrospects. My mother was very intentional about raising her children. And she went out of her way to make sure we had food in the house to eat. She didn't hear about noodles until I was 14 years old, and I went to Milwaukee, and I came back from Milwaukee because when I went to Milwaukee, my auntie had noodles in their house, and I came back. I was like, Mom, why we hungry at this house? You keep buying spaghetti and meatballs and stuff, and we were suffering through times when we didn't have food. And I'm like, you can get noodles. It's like 8 cents, 14 cents at the store. You can get noodles. Number 10. Tax season for sure. Number 10, we tend to follow in the footsteps of our parents in one way or another. Whether we follow the footsteps out of the mindset or into the mindset. We tend to follow the footsteps of our parents one way or another. I'll tell you this. For example, women who stick in relationships with broken, narcissistic men, who stay in those type of relationships, the reason they stay because their mother stayed or because their father wasn't present. Tell me the truth. You know what I noticed? I love patterns. I love learning this. Women who leave broken narcissistic men typically have had mothers who left those type of men as well. I'm not saying that that's a flex because you shouldn't get in a relationship with them in the first place, but I am saying that women who typically stay with narcissistic men, broken men, abusive men, have mothers who are either that have absent fathers or abusive fathers. I look at the dynamic of my parents, and I realized one day, God gave me the grace to leave. You know, the relationships I call myself in. But I realized I left because my mother left. And I know plenty of people that stayed because their mama stayed. I left because I saw my mom leave my dad. And then, you know, you can call that generational divorce and stuff like that. But at the same time, generational divorce comes from generational poor choices in the first place. All right. It's like you're marrying a person. Generational blessings is marrying the right person. It's not sticking with a person. It's marrying the right person in the first place. It's healing and seeking first the kingdom of God and his righteousness and allow him to add all those things to you and getting with the right person in the first place. So divorce is never an option. Generational divorce doesn't start at the fact in a courtroom when you get a divorce. It starts with you making a choice for somebody that you want to have the divorce. If you marrying somebody that is already divorced from God, or you marrying somebody that there's already division between the two of you, light and darkness cannot coexist. We be looking at it like she married him and she divorced him. No, she probably had ample reason to divorce him. But if you look at it, she has a habit, she has a pattern of poor decision making when it comes down to relationships. I saw my mom sticking there with my dad. I saw my dad lie. I saw him manipulate. I saw him scheme. I saw him do a lot of stuff. I'm not saying he was a total bad person because my mom had her ways too. They both had fault. But I also saw my mom look at my dad and tell him, if you're not out of my house by the time I get home, she's going to turn him into a ghost. And this is after she found out he had a kid with another person. She found out that he had cheated on her and had a kid with another person and took some money out of the account. Mom looked at my dad and said, if you're not out of this house by the time I get home. And she told him what she was going to do with her. She meant it. For women and men, yeah. She meant it. And you know what ended up happening? When I got with my ex, when him and I got married, I can look back, hindsight being 2020, and say he never had the intention of divorcing me. His parents stayed together until his mother passed. He never had the intention of divorcing me. He had the intention to do what his parents did. Just keep cheating on each other. Being abusive, toxic, broken. The problem was I came from a different dynamic. I saw my mom survive outside of my dad. I actually saw my mom start thriving when she got rid of my dad. Dad, if you're watching this, I still love you. I just got to tell the truth to the people, all right? But I saw my mom survive. I saw her thrive. I saw my mom heal. I saw my mom actually have a better lifestyle. His mother never saw that. His daddy never saw that, because just like my parents both, I can't, there is such thing as a villain on villain relationship, and I will stand on that. There's such thing as two people being in a relationship and they both villains. All right. And sometimes there's one that's the bigger villain, and the bigger villain in my mom and dad's relationship was my dad. But it does not exempt the fact that my mom had her ways too. Or it doesn't negate the fact that my mom had her ways too. I realized with him, his issue, what made him so abusive. He said something to me that an ex said to me some years prior. And I've told that story. I'm not going to go into that. I had an ex that when I was dating or what have you, dude was super serious. That's a dude that tried to kidnap me when I broke it off with him. But he said to me when we was in the middle of an argument, and I was like, yeah, I'm out. So I was like, I'm out. And he looked at me, he said, your problem is ain't nobody ever beat your A before. And I was like, and ain't nobody gonna beat my tail. He was like, no, that's your problem. Ain't nobody ever beat your A before. You know what I learned? Whenever you're dealing with a lot of people, when you're dealing with a man who's broken, unhealed, a lot of them become abusive whenever they come in contact with women that know how to walk away. Now, I think they're like that toward most women, but they can become extra abusive whenever they come in contact with a woman that knows how to walk away. Because in that's scary to them. Yeah, Jeremy, I guarantee you probably said something to him, right? And you let him know you knew how to walk away. And then he saw you had history of walking away. This guy heard me. He heard of me when he said his friend's baby mama used to wear the stuff that I was wearing. This is what he said to me in the car when I was questioning why she was dressing like like a farmer. And he said to me, she used to like to wear that little skimpy stuff just like you. She used to love to wear that stuff like you. But yeah, as soon as my boy got her pregnant, soon as she got pregnant, you know, he told her, he said, either you change your clothes or it's over with. And I was like, so he got her pregnant and threatened to make her a single mother? And he was like, yeah. Basically, I said, well, I would have been a single mother. Now, I can already hear. I can hear somebody the pride. It probably was. But I'm just saying, people, and I don't even know how to say this. Women who come from households where there were two parents, Even though my dad was broken and my mom were both broken, there was some healthy elements in our household. There were some things I got, some impartations I got. Children who come up into parent households can easily walk away. They can walk away a lot faster than a person who did not come up in a healthy household. Just so you know. I turn their mentality right. They can walk away. And the reason they can walk away is because they've seen and modeled that I've seen either craziness or healthiness model, right? And if I've seen craziness model, I'm not willing to have that. Y'all gotta do me a favor. Please don't be up in here just looking at me. I'm not willing to have that. I'm not will. I understand relationships are battles. I mean, you got battles. They're not battles, but there are some battleground activities that happen. I understand that you're not going to always agree. I understand that, but I'm talking about straight up dysfunction. I'm not talking about a light disagreement. I'm not talking about I want to do this, you want to do that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about straight up cheating. I'm talking about dysfunction. About I don't understand why I can't talk to this woman. I can't do that. No, absolutely not. He came from a dynamic where his parents stayed together to the point of shooting at each other, to the point where there was always discovery, but they stayed together. I came from a household where my mother, she stayed as long as she didn't fully know the truth. And as soon as the truth came out in the evidence in the form of a child, and even though the child was 9 years old, I think when we discovered it, my mom said no. My mom said no. And if it had been up to him, and I'll move on because I don't want to get into that, had it been up to him, that would have been me and his relationship with what his parents had. I'd have just been getting cheated on all the days of my life. I would have been the woman at the barbecue listening to when the woman's fed up, jumping up with a drink in my hand, talking about something, and pointing at him. It ain't nothing you can do about it. That would have been me. That's what he would have thought was wrong. I wasn't willing to go there. Because the thing about it is, very much like my mother, very much like my mother, I just don't believe you have to suffer through that. It all lingers in your belief system. I don't believe that I don't believe that I gotta be a ride or die. I don't believe that I gotta suffer through somebody cheating on me in order to prove myself. I don't believe I gotta be abused. I don't believe that I gotta sit up there and I'm not waiting for your hour of darkness where you finally cheat and your world falls apart. And now I get to finally put on my cape and prove myself to you. In the Black culture, in the Black community, that has been normalized so bad. And I don't want to tell you the truth like this, but I got to keep it real. That some of you are so trained and brainwashed that you think that that's what you're supposed to do. Is that that's your opportunity. Is that after he go out there and make a baby mama out of somebody that he cheated on you with, that's your opportunity to come up and battle with her to prove yourself. Right? Struggle love. That's your opportunity to come out and prove yourself. See, I got on my cape. I'm here for you. You see? You see? Now I'm gonna make her my enemy. And I'm gonna sit up here and I'm gonna ride for you. We're gonna sit up and lay down and we're gonna have pillow talk about you all hours of the night. And he gonna look me in my face and he gonna say, I love you. Just out of the blue. Just out of the blue. I'm sitting up over there supporting him and all of that kind of stuff. And he just look at me and he's like, I love you. You know I took you through some hell and I put you through some stuff. And you right here, you trying to help me with this custody battle, this child support stuff. You over here. I know I'll never find another idiot. I mean, another person like you. I had to throw something redeemed because sometimes it just gets in my bones. You don't have to die to prove your loyalty. I'm sorry. If I could say anything to my mother, I would say thank you. Now, I do believe my mother died early, prematurely, because of a lot of the choices she made with tolerating people. False flag, you have the right name, false flag, because obviously you didn't listen to this music, this in its entirety. I would just tell you, wisdom says close the mouth and open the ears, right? And then you find out I'm not a male hater. Just a little bit of something. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on. I am a lover of God. I preach healthy marriages, kingdom marriages that stay together until you give up the ghost, right? Until your teeth fall out your head, until you sitting up over there and you don't look the same, until you look like Crypt Keeper. I preach on healthy kingdom, great marriages between healthy men and healthy women who love the Lord. I don't teach that all men are wrong and all men are dogs. I don't believe that. I believe there's some great men out there who love the Lord, who fear the Lord. And I believe that there's some healthy marriages out there. I believe they exist. I believe that there's some amazing women out there. I believe they exist. I believe that you can have a relationship where you stay and there is no cheating. There is no abuse. Y'all are building together and you trust each other because you trust the God in each other. I believe in helping, supporting each other, loving each other. I believe in holding hands even when you're 88 years old and he ain't got no grip left in his fingers and all them. I take that back to my old men be having that strong grip, right? But I believe in healthy relationships. But I also preach against the unhealthy ones. I preach against idolatry. I preach against narcissism in relationships. And I don't think that men are the only ones who are narcissistic. I got 2 uncles who were 6 feet deep because of the women they married. How about the maths? Sister Nicole, you're amazing. Thank you for the cash up. Beautiful. Thank you. I got 2 uncles who were 6 feet deep. If you don't know my story, I'm going to get back into it. But I got 2 uncles who were 6 feet deep. I am equally balanced when it comes down to hating demonic ways and narcissism. I don't hate people at all. But I preach to men. I got a book written just for men where I talk about my years as a seductress and what type of woman to avoid. That's what I say. My great-grandfather's marriage, to this day, they passed when I was 5 or 6. The thing I remember the most was how beautiful they loved each other. And that was an impartation God gave me. I remember how much she loved that man. And I remember how much he loved her. That was beautiful to me. All right. So I believe in those type of marriages. I'm not a person who believes in a type of marriage where you out here fighting to stay with somebody and that person is cheating on you and lying to you and gaslighting you and manipulating you and you idolizing the person and you holding on to them for dear life and then you over here trying to prove yourself. Cam, thank you for the cash up. God bless you. You're over here trying to prove yourself to the person and you thinking one day he's going to wake up and see that I done stuck with him through thick and thin, you diseased and demonized body and half past crazy in the court of the saint. That ain't my thing. All right. So let's go ahead and move on. We tend to follow in the footsteps of our parents in one way or another. Either you're going to follow your parents' footsteps and have a toxic demonic relationship, or you're going to have a rotating door of souls that come in and out, what have you, which is just essentially just an orgy. Or you are following their footsteps of having a healthy relationship. You're following their footsteps of avoiding those type of relationships. Either way, you will follow in their footsteps. All right, let's move on. Number 11, women from fatherless households are more likely to attract and remain in relationship with abusers, narcissists, and other toxic men. Prove me wrong. Same is true for men. I just wrote women. Women from fatherless households are more likely to attract and remain in relationships with abusers, narcissists, and other toxic men. Whenever you're dealing with a narcissist, the thing about them is that they're typically very good at acting. They are very good at pretentiousness. As a matter of fact, they are in love with their ability to manipulate other people. They're in love with their intellect. All right, they're in love with their intellect. They're in love with their ability to manipulate, the people around them. They're in love with their ability. It's a gift, if you may, the gift of gab, the gift of influence, and what have you, and they use it for evil. They're in love with that. And so consequently, they know how to master a woman who doesn't have a father, who did not have a father in her life. They know what to say to you. They know what to do to you. They know how to do it to you. They know how to get around you. They know how to manipulate the folks around you. I will say one of the most effective narcissists, I won't even say the man was a narcissist. I can't say I've knew him long enough to be a narcissist. But this guy, I caught myself dating when I was 17 years old. That man had my mom. That man had my mom in the palm of his hands. He had my mom convinced. Like, my mom was like, this guy's good, Tiffany. You know, she really wanted me to be with this guy. She really wanted me to be with this guy. And the reason I say he's a narcissist or he's narcissistic is years later, me and him broke up. But years later, when I found out the stuff that he was doing to the woman that he married, he took that woman to hell and back. He took that woman to the toenail. He took her to the toenails of hell and back. He took her to the toenails of hell and back. But I remember one thing about him was that he appeared to be sensitive. He cried easily. As a matter of fact, that was my first Boys in the Hood experience, where he came to my house one day and I opened the door and he was like Cuba Gooding Jr. He came up in there and started crying. Or what have you, know how Cuba had that scene in front of Neil Long and he come up in there crying. He had that little scene there, and it had everything to do with something that was going on with his mom. He came in my house swinging at the air, hit the floor, and rolled on the floor. And I just remember looking at him, and I didn't know what to do because I was 17 years old. Right, I was new to this. Right, I wasn't true to this. I was new. I just found my legs, and I just remember he was on the floor rolling, and I'm watching him roll and cry, and I just kept saying, "What's wrong?" I'm like a cat. I'm like, "What do you do if you got a man?" If you got a muscular creature, men cry. I'm mature now. I know better. I'm saying back then, I just found my legs. You got a muscular creature that's rolling around on your floor and crying. And I didn't know what to do. He just hit the floor and I'm just like, baby, what's wrong? And all I could do was squat down and pat him like a cat. It's okay. It's okay. While looking around, realizing I'm at home alone. Like, is there any adult up in here that can tell me what to do in a situation like this? Anybody here that can tell me how? I didn't know. I have a lot of funny moments. I'm a storyteller by nature. And that's the writer in me, that's the scribe in me. But I found the humor in a lot of the stupid stuff I used to do back then. Right. The pet. I didn't know what to do. I laugh at the thing. I laugh at my response. I didn't know what to do. I was just like, I seen my dad cry plenty of times. But typically when he cried, I used to get mad and tell him he needed to leave my mom. But I probably hugged him as a kid. But at this time, I'm just watching this guy like, baby, what's wrong? Baby, what's wrong? But women from fatherless households are more likely to attract and remain in relationships with abusers, narcissists, and other toxic men. There are some of you in here right now that are like that. And you have been with narcissists and you're probably in a relationship with a narcissist. You are under a spell. You're under delusion. You're in idolatry, and you genuinely believe in your whole heart that you're going to prove yourself to him. At some point, you're never going to prove yourself to him. Everything you're trying to prove, he already knows. He already knows that you are a faithful woman to him. Now, there's no such thing as faithfulness to a person. But he knows that you won't cheat on him. He already knows that you care about him. He already knows that you want to be with him. He already knows that you will do anything to hold on to a relationship. He's aware of that. He's aware of that. He'll play on your ignorance and play on this, your watching you give offering after offering to prove your love for him. He'll play on that. I'm telling you, he'll play on that. He'll play on the fact that, you're super insecure. He'll play on the fact that you'll do anything to try to get him to understand that you're there for him. He'll play on that. Let's go. Number 12, last one for this list. Fathers in biblical times protected their daughters from 3 types of men. Fathers in biblical times protected their daughters from three types of men. A, predatory men. They were out. Please don't think that they're a new thing. That's not 21st century. There were predatory men out there back then. That's why you had to go to a father to get to his daughter. If you went to the daughter first, you were out of order. All right. But fathers in biblical times protected their daughters from three types of men. That's predatory men. That included fornicators and families of dishonor. If you came from a family of dishonor, you could not get with a man, daughter, especially if it was a family of honor. If you came from a family of dishonor, where there was a lot of covenants that were broken, contracts that were broken, loans, things that were dishonored, first and foremost, you under the law, you're going to be in trouble. But nobody's going to marry their daughters off to you, or nobody's going to allow their daughters to marry your sons. So they protected their daughters from that type of thing. Had there not been a father then, we would see the same stuff that we see right now. If there had not been a father in place then, because you had to go to the father, the man had to go to the father, or his father had to go to the father and say, hey, I want your daughter hand in marriage. And then the father did an investigation, right, to make sure that, hey, you are a good person, you're a decent person. He didn't just say yes just because you had dimples and a good credit score. No, he looked, he did his investigation, he asked around, and if you were decent, you came from a good household, then he would say, okay, yeah, here's the bride price. And that was a test your provision as well, and to make sure that you were a man of your word. To make sure you were a man of your word. They protected you from predatory men. Without the father, there's a lot of the protection that you're missing. Now, you can get the protection from the father, but God's protection is found in his will. I wish I had something else to throw. God's protection is found in his will. The protection is still there. Keep your legs closed. Keep your pants pulled up, dudes. The protection is there. You got to stay in God's will. Karen, thank you for the cash up. God bless you. The protection is there. You just got to stay in God's will. I don't know why this stuff keep happening to me. Did your drawers fall? What does it have to do with anything? Outside of God's will, there's no protection. And I hear women say this all the time, because I got to go ahead and address this before we move on. Well, Sister Tiffany, I have you know that before I married that bad of a man, I never had sex with him. He turned out to be a narcissist anyhow. So can you explain that? Yep, easily. God said, don't be unequally yoked with unbelievers. God said you would know them by their fruit. So he was an unbeliever and you got with him anyhow. He just, you disobeyed God. God said you would know them by their fruit. You ignored his fruit. He tried to have sex with you before y'all got married. That was your red flag. He did not obey God. He obeyed God with his tongue, but not with his penis. Draws weigh 455 pounds, can't stay up above his knees. He got automatic zippers, AI activated zippers. Go, gadget activate, unzip. You saw God gives you a way of escape whenever you're tempted. This is what he does with his people. You can never tell me. You can't sell me that story. I'm waiting on somebody to sell me that story. You can't sell me that story that you were with a narcissist and that you were totally innocent in the story. You can't sell that to me. You can sell that to people that have been going to church all the days of their life and they've never really been around narcissists and dark people and what have you, and they just believe everybody is cotton candy and butterflies. And you can sell that to people who don't know what the darkness looks like, but you can't sell that to me. Because if you tell me your story and you tell me that you were with a narcissist, I'm going to tell you how you got there. I'll tell you how he got there. I never had sex with him, Sister Tiffany. Never. He never touched me. Okay, cool. We never had, we first had sex when we got married. So let me ask you a question. Did you have supplemental sex? What is supplemental sex? I know y'all church folks like to keep it nice. And we don't say stuff like penises. But go ahead and still over here. Was any of this involved? Y'all can do this right here. Did your hand touch that? Did you try to help him to remain abstinent? Did you bow your knees in anything other than prayer? Did you get on FaceTime and let him and try to talk him, help him get through some stuff? No, Sister Tiffany, none of that. Did he at least try? Yes, he did. He tried to have sex with me, but I rejected him. That was your way of escape. I said the nice way. Did you headbutt him down there? Did you try to help him out in any way? Did you get on the phone with him and you knew he was doing stuff to himself, but you pretended that you didn't know what he was doing to himself? So you tried to low-key help him out? I be telling on y'all. You tried to low-key help him out. You knew good and well that man had that Jodeci playing in the background and he was breathing heavy, and all of a sudden he repeated almost everything you said, and then he started calling your name and whispering. You knew what that man was doing. You knew what that man was doing. You knew that man wasn't coughing. If you pull out an anatomy doll, oh, I need one so bad. Oh, don't give me no ideas. Oh, I must be blessing y'all. The cash apps are coming in. Makia, thank you. God bless you. Thank you for the cash app, beautiful. You knew good and well. Thank you, Cam. God bless you. You knew good and well. You knew after he's sitting up over there, you kept hearing a bouncing in the background, but it was disguised. It was drowned out by the sounds of silk singing. And then all of a sudden, there was silence on the phone. You found yourself talking to yourself and you realized he was snoring. You knew he finished. Hello? Hello? You know what that man did. You should have got rid of him. You knew what he did. You should have got rid of him. You shouldn't even let him finish. Even when I was in the world, if somebody pulled that stuff on me, I interrupted it. I'm like, hello? Hello? Dude, I know you ain't over there. What would your grandma say? Fathers in biblical times protected their daughters from three types of men: predatory men, fatherless men, which is B, or men with curses attached to their names. He said, leave us alone. It's the truth. You know what I found? I believe that today's modern church will get free if you hear the truth and stop trying to say everything so nice and Christian. If you stop trying to keep everything above the surface when people are going beneath the surface to do the dirty, to do the nasty. Fathers in biblical times protected their daughters from three types of men: predatory men, B, fatherless men. Fatherless men. If that man didn't have a father figure, his mother went out there and she played the harlot or what have you, they were protected from fatherless men or men who had curses attached to their names. Curses attached to their names meaning they moved in dishonor. And so nobody in the Jewish community trusted them to trade with them. You couldn't get to the father because you didn't have a father to direct, to direct, the man back to. Right. They talking code. I ain't doing it. I'm not doing it. And see, I will make this thing go closer so y'all can see me in my eyes when I say this. But fathers in biblical times protected their daughters from seeing men who could not provide. That was a man worse than an infidel. Even a man's father will protect him from you. If he paid the bride price off and he still didn't have his stuff together, when he asked his father, "Can I go get my wife?" Now his father will say, "Get yourself together." Sometimes it will take years before that man can go get his wife because his father will look and say, "Go get yourself together. You ain't got yourself together." Y'all quiet on me. That's okay. Right. And for the guys, and I will say this for the men, fatherlessness is equally as, and sometimes it can be more devastating to you because you end up not having a male role model. And what the enemy does is he becomes a father figure and he will sit there and put demonic role models. A lot of men that were broken, raised in fatherless households were raised by broken mothers who had broken brothers, and the uncles ended up being the father, the role models. I was going to say role fathers, the role models for these guys. And consequently, they ended up thinking that what the uncle was doing. I had have an uncle. Prayerfully, he's a different creature now, but he was a horrible role model. Horrible. He was a horrible role model. And my brother modeled himself after him. I remember some of my male cousins' mother modeled themselves after him because he was a womanizer. He had a lot of women coming after him, and he embodied hip hop culture. He embodied, what was popular in that day. He embraced that spirit. He mastered that spirit. Consequently, he had a lot of women attracted to him. He did the thing that, black men were supposed to, or were expected, not supposed to do. He kept going in and out of prison, selling drugs, and a lot of women were attracted to that. And so then he went got the gold teeth, in his head. And so consequently, a lot of the guys in my family actually looked up to him. Rainy, thank you for the cash up. God bless you. They modeled, they looked after that. They looked up to that. I didn't, thankfully. I found it to be disgusting. Now we're praying for God to break the curse, but before we go there, let's go here. Let's talk about this real quick. Fatherlessness leads women to become, number one, concubines. That's the modern day girlfriend. That you let a man come and have husband benefits without actually being a husband. And a concubine is a slave. A concubine is a slave. It leads you into allowing yourself to allow a man to reduce you to nothing but a sex slave. Just somebody he can come and have fun with without having any responsibility to you. And if he can't take on a because a husband is responsible for his wife. Don't know if you know that. If he can't be responsible for you, what do you think he's going to do with his own kid? What do you think he's going to do with his own kid? It will turn you into a concubine. Now, real quick, if you don't want to be a concubine, come out of fornication. Another thing you have to do, you got to study and show yourself approved. You're going to have to go get the word of God in you so that you don't become that. 3, you need to go around, get around some integral women. If you got all that in your family, in your community, and in your friendship group, baby, you need to get around some integral women who fear and love God. Those women that's going to church, that's fasting and praying, those women that are surrendered to God, those women that are about their father's business, those women that are builders, building for the kingdom, those women that understand the value of who they are. You need to get around those type of women. They do exist. I'm one of them. And get around those type of women so that you can come to understand. I don't have to, my identity is not locked in a relationship with a person. And God will send your spouse and he'll send your person in due season if that's what you want. All right, in due season. He waits till you content so you can stop contending with him. The enemy will turn you into a concubine. That is a modern day sex slave. All right, you will have the responsibilities of a wife without having the role, without having the benefits, without having the title. Number 2, fatherlessness leads women to become promiscuous. Please understand, promiscuity is not just crawling from one bed on Tuesday into another bed on Tuesday night. Promiscuity is just basically having sex outside of marriage. And once you've crossed over from one bed to another, regardless of how much time has been spent, you are stepping into promiscuity. All right, because you were never, the body was not designed for fornication. You were not designed to take on several men. All right, you weren't designed for that. Number 3, fatherlessness leads women to becoming impoverished. One of the cultures of today is a lot of women are waiting for men to come and take care of them, all while engaging in fornication. Consequently, you take yourself off of the block to be selected by a true man of God, and you end up being selected by a broken man. And I want you to understand, if you're waiting on somebody to come pull up and take care of you, and the only thing that you have to offer him is sex in return, you know what that's called. Yes, even if you want to do that in the context of marriage. A lot of women have become married lot lizards. Okay? A lot of women have become married lot lizards because they sit up in there in the marriage because of money. I remember having an old friend of mine, beautiful woman. I didn't understand for the life of me why she was taking the crap off that she was taking off of her boyfriend, living boyfriend at the time we were in the world. And she just kept saying she couldn't afford to leave. She kept saying it. I'm just like, well, he ain't really bringing nothing in. He ain't really bringing nothing in. Why are you doing it? I tell you, I always say this, and this gonna make me sound traumatized, all right? And for those of you who want to diagnose me, it's fine. I don't get 3 rats for this. Just send me an $8,000 cash app, and I'll probably tell you, you might be right. But one of the things that I was raised, my mother raised me to rely. I was raised to rely on a man, because that's how she was raised. Nevertheless, she didn't never have the opportunity to rely on my dad because my dad wouldn't work. Right? He worked for a little while, but then after that, he worked for probably the first 7 years of my life. But after that, Daddy was like, forget that. After he lost that job, Daddy was like, oh, forget that. And what was I about to say? My mother raised me the way her mother raised her. And that is to rely. When I was a young lady and I got into my dating phase, my mother kept trying to, she never tried to put me in a relationship with anybody, but I went through my phase of having boyfriends and just basically trying to discover who I am through relationships. And I would introduce my mom to some dudes and stuff like that. And my mother, she would let me know who she approved of and who she didn't approve of. And I remember the guys that my mother was really rooting for. I said, you're 18. I was a bit of, I don't know what the world. There was one guy that he was really driven, very, very, very driven. And at the same time, he had his claws and all that locked in on me, right? Nice guy. My mom, she was locked in on him because of his career. He was around my age. She was locked in on him because of his career. When I broke it off for him, she was just like, why, this and that. He get fit. And I was just like, no, absolutely not. I broke it off with him because he had a child with a girl and she had too much control over him. And I didn't want to be, to me, I always felt like that's a third party relationship. I'm not going to be in a relationship with somebody who's being mollywopped by the person that they had a kid by. But then 2 older guys that came after me. One of them I actually dated, one I didn't. My mom sat back and she was rooting for them because they were wealthy. She was pushing me into those relationships because they were wealthy. So I was raised to rely. God untaught that doctrine to me while I was married. Now I ended up marrying somebody who could not, he was nowhere near wealthy. All right. But he did make a little bit more money than me, not significantly. My mother didn't like him for that very reason. She didn't like him for many reasons, but she didn't like him for that reason. And toward the end, me and him were buying this big house and had all this stuff. And he told me, he said, I don't know what you're going to do from here on out. He says, I'm not paying for the house. I'm not paying for anything. He said, I don't know what you're going to do. I ain't paying for nothing else. In other words, because I couldn't afford to pay for that house by myself. I couldn't afford, because we had got ourselves into a financial bind. Now, like I said, I was in my 20s at the time. And I never forget the thought I had. I never forget that. It was so strong that I still hear it to this day. I heard never again. I said never again. Never again. And what I meant by that was never again when I put myself at the mercy of another human being, whether a person can determine whether I have someplace to stay or something to drive. I said never again. In that moment, that doctrine my mom taught me, that stuff my mom raised up in me, it snapped. It broke. I didn't argue with him. I didn't say anything. It just started playing in my head. I don't know if it played out of my mouth. I'm pretty sure it did. I just said, never again would I put myself at the mercy of another human being. Whether that human being can make the determination as to whether or not I eat, whether or not I have a place to lay my head. Never. In this, was that trauma at that time? Yes. But I believe it taught me how to be a wife. Y'all quiet. Y'all still here with me? We almost done the words. Y'all still here? Y'all still here? It taught me how to be a wife. Because in that, it taught me. I became an entrepreneur after that. You said I had to be for the streets. Listen, we had our ways. I'll tell you the truth. If I ever had, I always said if I had kids and grandkids, my grandkids would sit at my feet and be like, now, Grandma, tell us, oh yeah, baby, I'll tell you, your grandma was a piece of work, okay? Your grandma was a mess. But it taught me how to be a wife. See, this is what I learned about trauma. This is why I appreciate trauma. I believe that trauma, if you heal from it and you look at it and you take accountability, there's a pretty side. There's revelation there. If you heal from it, this is why one of the prayers I pray, Lord, give me the wisdom from the storm. That moment grew me up. That moment grew me up, and I realized you don't ever want to be in that place where somebody has that power, that ability. But it also taught me you do want to be in that place where if you're in that space and you're making your own money and you don't have to rely on a person, it taught me how to be a good wife. Because when I found myself married again, I wasn't sitting up there working on no traditional 9 to 5. I remember saying to him, I said, cover me and I'll make you rich. It never happened, but I just kept saying, cover me. In other words, work that and let me work what I got. Because I was writing, I was doing a lot of stuff. I was starting businesses. I was trying to explore my gifting. What I'm saying is I realized I don't have to sit around and work a traditional 9 to 5. I can actually go out there and do something with what God gave me. And that's when I became a Proverbs 31 woman. All right. Fatherlessness leads the women to becoming concubines. That was number 1. Number 2, promiscuous. Number 3, impoverished. Gets you to making a bunch of silly decisions where you choose men over yourself. You choose men over God. You choose men over your children. You choose men over your destiny. And you end up being impoverished because you end up relying on somebody and waiting on them to take care of you. And that person may help you until they're tired of you and discard you. When during that season, what you should have been doing is chasing God. You should have been going after God with everything that you had. God said in Matthew 6:33, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. God will give you everything that you desire. He will give you the desires of your heart. When God started teaching me, because my parents didn't raise me right, God had to raise me. When God started raising me, right, he was raising me even when I was in those marriages. He was raising me. But when he really got me alone to raise me, God had me going on daddy-daughter dates with God, being consistent in my Bible study with him, being on my face in prayer, fasting, getting to know him, not getting in no relationship, building businesses, and doing what he designed me to do. It's amazing what God will have you do if you get a man out your ear. You don't need to be dating until you heal. Matter of fact, I'm going to say this out loud. Your objective is not to date and find the right person. That's the culture of today. You're not supposed to be out here. This is how you create fatherless households. The Father protected you from a man getting in your ear in the biblical days. Not every man needs to have access to your ears. We can be influenced. Let's just keep it real. I'm not out here acting like I got some type of superpower. No, if I have a man on my phone long enough and he sound good and he talking good, he can make me want to say, I want him to be the one. I want him to be right. I just don't let him be on the phone that long. I just pay attention. And if that man say anything, if he threatened me with his male member or anything like that, I get that joke up off my phone. I get him off my phone because I don't want to get to the part of a soul tie where I start trying to negotiate with the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords about why I should be able to keep the very thing that he's trying to protect me from. God, could you heal him? God, could you deliver me? He told me his story. You know what his daddy did to him. You know the stuff his mama took him through. God, could you fix him? I don't want that. I get to the outskirts. I realize, hey, this ain't it. This gonna turn out bad. And I recognize, hey, get out of this situation, or you're gonna find yourself entangled. How many of you in here need to hear this? Because there's some of you here quiet. You know you need to hear this. Y'all done got way too quiet. This is the time to engage. Because what this doing is it's going to make a mark on your heart. You need to stop trying to be the chosen one. You need to stop out there trying to find somebody that's going to love you or trying to force somebody to love you. Don't do that. You ain't got to force the right one to love you. You just got to learn to love yourself, learn to love God, and learn to love yourself. And in that become content, and God will send the right person in due season. He will send the right person in due season. But you got to date yourself. You got to go on daddy-daughter dates with God. Baby, go travel the world. Go travel the world. Go start those businesses that God gave you. Go do all those beautiful things. I write songs, right? That's one of the things I love to do. It's a gift that passed from my dad to me. My dad's a minstrel. And I've turned all of my songs that I've written into actual songs, right? And you can go to iTunes and find over 100 of them. I got over 100 that are not published too, right? I'll show you what I do with my single season. One of the things that I do as a single woman, I don't just be sitting around my house. I'm not going to be on the phone with nobody. No, all days, what have you. I use this time. Oops, wrong thing. I utilize this opportunity. I utilize this moment to go and do what God designed me to do. See, I sat there and I made it. I'm trying to show you what you can do with your time. I made a promise to myself. I said, you need to design 100 album covers. So guess what I did? I set up. I gave myself 5 days to design 100 album covers. I gave myself 5 days. I think I did it in 3. That's what you do with your time. I gave myself 5 days. I love this song here. Kind of got an R&B flair. R&B a flesh of mine. I gave myself 5 days to design 100 R&B covers. Because the curse ends with me. How many of you are curse breakers? I'm talking about those of you who still walk. Because some of y'all don't want to sleep on me. I feel you. I feel you. It's okay. How many of you are curse breakers? What are curse breakers at? Do something with that time. The thing about it is, because I'm too busy, I don't have time to be lonely. I don't know if y'all heard what I said. I don't have time to be lonely. If you deal with loneliness, it's because you got too much time on your hands. I don't have time to be lonely. I got too much to do. I got too much. I'm in the process of building a store, opening up another store. I don't have time to be lonely. Loneliness has to stand in line behind a whole lot of other stuff that I could be feeling. All right, let's move on. Fatherless leads women to be, number 1, concubines, number 2, promiscuous, number 3, impoverished, number 4, competitive. Competitive. I want to read the scripture to you. You come across a competitive woman who's jealous and fighting over a man, you can bet your by golly wow she had an absent father or a broken father or a narcissist for a dad. Either that or her dad gave her the world and then some, but he didn't give her no sense. Isaiah 4:1. And in that day, talking about the last days, in that day, 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, we will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by thy names to take away our reproach. We're living here right now. Number 1, concubines, which is modern day girlfriends. Let's go, Tiff. Proud of you. Competitive. Women competing over men. That is common to this day. You got women, you got the pick-me generation. You got women out here that doing everything that they can, playing snatch and grab what somebody else is doing. You just out here, it's like military. Everybody running and rolling and humping and doing everything that they can to get somebody. It don't take all that. I want you to know I know you believe that there's a shortage of men. It's not. It's just there's a shortage of God-fearing people, both male and female. If you get to that place of God, the fear of God is the beginning of all wisdom. If you get to that space where you seek first the kingdom of God, God's word is going to come to pass in your life. Isaiah 4:1 again, read it again. And in that day, 7 women shall take hold of one man. We see that right now. Go to TikTok. Get ready with me while I'll tell you how. Get ready with me while I'll tell you how my boyfriend of this many years, I found out he was cheating on me with my leprechaun neighbor. We living in that time right now. And in that day, 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, we will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by thy name. In other words, we'll be our own providers. The husband is what? Protector, provider, and priest. The father is what? Protector, provider, and priest. The Bible talks about in the last days, because of the fornication of women, because you allowed yourself to be reduced. You allowed yourself to be reduced. You allowed yourself to be used by the enemy, that you would grab, 7 women would grab a hold of one man. And you'll say, hey, just let me be called by your name. Just let me be with you. Let me show you that I'm better than her. I've said this and I say this. Women that come from households where there was a father present will do, even sometimes with a broken father, have a level of confidence that most women don't understand. I've learned that. Because I say stuff that make y'all look at me like I'm crazy. So when I sit back and I say, if a woman playing tug of war with a man that I'm with, she can have him. Y'all look at me like I'm crazy. I'm not competing. I'm not playing any mini mighty mo catch a dude by his toe. If you got 2 people that want to be together, let them be together. But that makes me sound either arrogant or wounded, because I'm talking a language of confidence, which is a language that a lot of people don't know. That I don't have to deal with that. That's a choice. You deal with that by choice. You know that, right? You do know that, right? I'm talking the language of a wife. Those of you looking at me, oh, Tiffany, that's not when you're not married now, baby. I can guarantee you, if I started dating, I'd be proposed to within 3 months. And I'm not talking from a place of arrogance, because I think like a wife and I walk like a wife. I move like a wife because that's what I am. And even when I was in the world, I always attracted the husband-minded person, because I'm not that. Men don't care too much for women who are willing to allow themselves to become doormats, believe it or not. If you are a chosen doormat, he chose you to be a doormat. There are some men that choose women to be doormats, but they don't choose them to be wives. They'll marry you, but they don't want you to be wives. So they'll have you as a doormat while they're out there pursuing what they really want in a woman. Tell me if I'm lying. I come from a family of predatory men. You can't. There are some men that choose women based on the fact that that woman got low self-esteem. That woman don't care nothing about herself. She's allowed the media, social media, and life to teach her that she's not, and the fact that she's fatherless to teach her that she ain't worth nothing, which is a lie. And you got men out there that will marry you just because you got men out there that will marry you just for being stupid, having low self-esteem, and a big anointing. You got dudes that will come after you for having low self-esteem and a big anointing, for having an immense amount of potential, but the inability to see it. You got guys out there that some of you that had kids with, and the only reason they got you pregnant was so that they can make you were a marker on their map of conquering the world. They just wanted to have the ability to come back to you. It's like when I went hiking on a trail one time with my dog, right? When we got lost. But they had markers on the trail. My problem was I went off the trail. But they have markers on the trail to help you to get back to, you got to find the places that you've been to so you can get back to your car. I decided to wander off the beaten path. But you got to understand that there are broken men out there, and broken women to the brothers that will have children with you, and that's just their way of peeing on a tree so they can find their way back to you. Should the other relationships not work? Your child to them is a marker on a tree. He whipped it out and peed. Your kid to him is a marker. I'll come back to you if I don't find somebody that I think is better suited for me than you. Why do you think he acted such a fool when you went and got in a relationship? Because somebody else was marking that tree. Fatherlessness leads women to become, number 4, competitive. Because you start thinking there's a lack of men. You start thinking there's a lack, and you start fighting other women over men. Number 5, last one for this one. Fatherlessness leads women to become gossipers. Fatherlessness leads women to become gossipers. Not all women that don't have a father, but this is the T culture that we got right now where everybody's TTT and foolishness and stuff like that. It leads to that. Because whenever you're not happy with your life or whatever, you don't have much to talk about in your life, you will oftentimes look at other people that are miserable or that you think are miserable or they got something bad going on in their lives, and you will start to find joy in that. 2 Thessalonians 3:11-12. For we hear that there are some which walk among you disorderly, working not at all, but are busybodies. Sound familiar? Now them that are such, we command and exhort by our Lord Jesus Christ, that with quietness they work and eat their own bread. 1 Timothy 5:13. And withal they learn to be idle, wandering about from house to house, and not only idle, but tattlers, also busybodies, speaking things which they ought not. In other words, you don't have nothing else to do with your time. A lot of the haters, jealous folks that you come in contact with in life, tell the truth. Can I say this? Are bonnet wearing, broken, narcissistic women who lean to the system to take care of their children, take no accountability, who continue to go out here and perpetuate the same crimes, having kids with different dudes. Never learn from it. And those are the busybodies. Not saying that nothing wrong with your bonnet. I'm saying, the stereotype. There are the stereotype is true in some cases. The stereotype is true in many cases. Well, I'm not going to sit up. Y'all forget this. I rebuke that culture. I reject that culture of sitting up and keeping quiet and lying and pretending that I don't see something and you don't see it. That's okay. When you have nothing going on in your life, you will hyper focus on somebody else's life to make you feel better about your own. When you got no good thing going on in your life, you will hyper fixate on somebody else's life. And you will look for them to be miserable, sad, or have some type of negative event to happen to make you feel better about your own. I ain't getting a whole lot of engagement right now. That means I'm stepping on some toes. So let me step on some more. Fatherlessness leads to men. And I think this is what the ladies wait on. You ain't saying nothing to the men. Y'all gotta stop that for real. Not all the ladies. There are so many ladies that do that. And I can't stand that. I can preach against the stuff that men do. But the minute I come out and say something about what happens with women, you get women that be like, you ain't say nothing to these men. You ain't say nothing to these men. And the reason for that, and I talked about this earlier, is because of this mindset. I want to share the video on my page so that a man can see this and he'll change his wicked ways. Girl, that man ain't gonna change. Stop going out here getting these people that are not fixed. Stop getting people that are fixer-uppers. Your job is not to be Jesus in somebody's life. All right. But I'll entertain it. Fatherlessness leads men to become infidels and worse than infidels. The Bible talks about a man who does not provide for the members of his household is worse than an infidel. The word infidel means unbeliever. It is a curse to have children that you don't take care of. It is a curse to have children that you don't take care of. It is a curse to have children that you don't take care of. Number 2, double-minded and unstable. Unable to really settle on a decision. The hardest person to be in a relationship with or married to is a person who is unsettled, don't know what they want to do in life, a person that doesn't know if they want to choose between you or another person, a person that is sitting up there and they just haven't made a sound decision. All right. They haven't made a sound decision. It's hard to be with somebody to be in a relationship with a person that's just kind of going throughout life wild and out. It's like they're throwing stupid decision to see what sticks. And you're just kind of there for the ride to see whichever decision they're making, just knowing that they're about to do something dumb, and they just keep on taking you through hell and back and all these little bumpy situations. And you're just kind of hoping the only thing that you got to look forward to is the imagination you got playing in your mind that eventually we're going to go somewhere good. In the end, it's going to turn out to be good, and I won't have suffered for nothing. Ride or dies often die in idolatry. Let's see if I can write it. Can I write this one? Oh, take it. Coach Tyrone, thank you. Bless you, beautiful. Can y'all read that? My handwriting legible on here. I had to rewrite it. Is my tablet dirty? You don't look dirty over here. Ride or dies are often offed by their idols. Ride or dies are often offed. OFFED. You get killed by your idols. You die by the hands of your idols. The stress, where you think a lot of that cancer comes from? It comes from bitterness and unforgiveness, from being with people that keep on taking you to hell and back. People that you sit up there and you hold on to, and you just know at the end of the rainbow there's a pot of gold. You know, with a pot of pee at the end of that rainbow. A pot of crap at the end of that rainbow. Somebody that's not good to God can't be good to you. I'm gonna say that again. I'm gonna say it out loud. I'm gonna say it with my chest. Somebody that ain't faithful to God ain't gonna be faithful to you. Somebody that God can't trust, you can't trust. Somebody who don't love it fully, surrender themselves to God, ain't gonna be right for you. Ride or dies are often taken out by their idols. Y'all got to get rid of that Bonnie and Clyde mentality. That's how you get a bunch of these fatherless households. Fatherlessness leads men to become infidels and worse than infidels. Number 2, double-minded and unstable, and unable to make a decision. A man who's not able to make a decision is not able to provide in many cases, because whenever you start to even tap into building anything, you have to be decided. You know, like I said, I'm getting ready to, I got my 3rd office space and I'm getting ready to open up a store. I'm locked in, baby. If you knew the amount of money I paid in that space right then, you would just sit up there and you'd be like, Miss Tiffany, can I give you a hug? And I'd accept your hug, right? But not everybody. I don't take everybody's hugs. But you have to be locked in. In order for me to open this store, guess what? I have to be locked in. I can't sit up there and be like, oh no, it just feels so scary. This is new ground that I'm treading. I don't know what to do. I actually don't know what to do in some cases, but I got to be willing to walk through it, right? Navigate that space. I got to be willing to learn. I got to be willing to be a student, right? Loyalty, idolatry. And that is common in the Black community. It is common in the Black community that, and it's in every community too, but I believe that I can speak for the Black community and say that loyalty, idolatry, that ride or die, that mentality that where you're trying to prove yourself to a person that I'm loyal, that you ain't got to worry about me, I got your back. And then there's a test. At the end, there's a test where that person dogs you, they dog walk you, they do something. And now this is your opportunity to show off your skill set, to show off everything that you said, and you show up and say, see, I'm still here. See? 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 I'm still here. And the whole time you're just waiting for that man to look at you, just look at you and be like, you really do got my back. I wasn't sure, I ain't gonna lie to you. I wasn't sure, you know, if you were there for me. You know, I've had a history of people, but man, you really do got my back. I got a question. Why do you need that? Do me a favor, like and share. We almost done. Why do you need that? What is the reward in that? That's when you made that man your God. And I'm going to tell you something. Idols are tossed into the fire. And if you got one, you go before God and you had an idol, you had another God before him, then he don't know you. Fatherlessness leads men to become infidels, double-minded. Number 3, promiscuous. Promiscuity amongst males is not normal. Even though it was normalized and it was culturalized, it is still not a normal behavior. It is a sign of a lack of discipline, a lack of the fruit of self-control, and it is a sign of demonization. Promiscuous. When you're in your right mind and you're sober, you don't see sex the same way. If I can be honest with you, whether you're male or female, you don't see sex as just pleasure and opportunity to experience another person. You don't see it that way. You see it honestly for what it is. Within godly context, it's beautiful. With you two faithful people in a marriage, but you also see it outside of it. It's just disgusting. Right? They ride while you're dying. Riding everybody they can. You see it as disgusting. I don't see fornication as cute anymore. I don't. I see it as disgusting. If a man is trying to sleep with me outside of marriage, I see him as a man that's probably sleeping with multiple women, a nasty creature who is probably filled with all types of these diseases and demons, who sees women as objects. So he has an inability to care or love me. Only thing he wants to do is use me as an experiment. That's how I see him. That's called sobriety, baby. I don't see him as a man who has the ability to love me, who's going to look me in my eyes while we're in the heat of the moment and say, I really love you, Tiffany. And then there'd be a single teardrop and it would hit me in the eye and then I start crying and we are locked for life. That's a lie from Disney. No, I see that as a pervert, a demonized pervert who lacks self-control, who will say whatever he wants to get what he needs, even to live in a moment. Sometimes y'all are having, it's an insult. Sometimes you got to understand, sometimes y'all are living in the movie in your mind, even when you're in the bedroom, you're creating a movie. You're just constantly creating scenes for you to snapshot and take home with you. He looked me in my eyes. No, that's nasty. Absolutely nasty. I see any man trying to sleep with a woman outside of marriage as being an undisciplined man, a man who does not fear God, a man who does not love God, a man who does not love himself. Therefore, he has an inability to love his wife. Number 4, fatherlessness leads men to becoming impoverished. Men be broke out in these streets as well. That's why some of you, listen, I've had people to close this thing out because they got their baby daddy sleeping on their couch, or they got some dude that they got sleeping on their couch because he impoverished because of the decisions that he keep making in life. He ain't got nothing. Loyalty, idolatry. If I can be honest with you, if I can break it down to it's just basically loyalty, the concept of loyalty. Loyalty, what we've been taught in the Black community is the same gang-related foolishness. You got to prove yourself to a person till you die. You ride or die. That's loyalty. That's idolatry. Realistically speaking, loyalty is not, it doesn't belong to a person. It belongs to God. I am loyal to God. I'm faithful to God. Therefore, my husband finds a faithful woman. Because even without him and not for him, I'm already presenting my body to God as a living sacrifice. So he doesn't have to worry about me putting my body in the bed with another man while married to him, because I fear the Lord of Lords. All right. I fear the King of Kings, the Judge of Judges, the God. I fear the sovereign God. I fear him. And I not only fear him, I love him, because perfect love cast out fear a long time ago. I reverence him. I esteem him. I exalt him. So he has a faithful daughter. Therefore, my husband automatically has a faithful wife. But if I'm not faithful to God and I'm faithful to a man, then that's idolatry. Because faithfulness, what it does is at the end of a season, it makes you follow people into a lion's den because of the decisions that they made. That's what faithfulness does. That's what loyalty, idolatry, that's what it does. It makes you feel the need to prove yourself. Am I lying? Can I get 20 people to answer me? Am I lying? Loyalty, idolatry makes you want to prove yourself. You feel the need to prove yourself. You feel the need to sit up there and say, see, look, I didn't leave you like you thought I would. I didn't walk away from you. I'm still here. I'm still here. I love you. If did nobody else love you? Because the fantasy behind that type of thinking is, after I've proven my love to you, you'll finally be the person to me that I needed you to be. And then we'll ride off into the sunset and be happy. I tell this story. I had two Siberian Huskies, and I used to tie them out in the yard whenever I got home from work because I didn't have a fenced-in backyard. But I had a huge backyard. So I had these very, 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 very long ropes. So it was almost like they were loose anyhow. I had these long, long, long ropes. My female husky used to chew the male husky loose. All right, that's why I had to move over to getting chains again. Because she would chew the male husky loose. She would chew his rope and set him free. And I used to always joke. I think the agreement was supposed, once she set him free, he was supposed to set her free, but instead he ran off. She would snitch on him. I gotta be up in the house and I hear, woo! You know anything about huskies, they don't bark, they howl most of the time. I hear, arr, arr. And I was like, crap. That dog got out. Go out there, sure enough, there she is over there crying. And I see his tail in the wind. I don't see him at home. I got to go get in my car and drive around till I found him. Then when you got a husky, they're not getting in the car. You can offer them anything. You just got to wait for them to tire themselves out. You get a little rope and he's chewed through. A lot of women live in that mentality nowadays. You live in the mentality that I got to prove myself. I got to prove myself to my friends. I got to prove myself to my lovers, boyfriends, husbands. I got to prove myself to my pastor. I got to prove myself to my workplace, to the people in my workplace, especially the mean, nasty ones, the people that put you on punishment, the people that make you feel like they don't trust you. You know, I've learned that as a form of manipulation. Some people just give you that about themselves, for lack of a better term, that they don't trust you, and then you just go straight into performative. Okay, I understand why he don't trust me. I'm more show enough, boy. I'm gonna show him that I'm trustworthy. You know the crazy thing that I've learned, former idol worshiper here, all the relationships that God has built in my life, the ones He brought together, I ain't never had to have that mentality. Not in this lifetime. Not on this side of me. They just naturally form together. Why? Because I don't want nothing. But to receive the love that I've been given for years anyhow. Some people have everything they need. Only thing they want is reciprocity. That's another message for another time. That's all they want is reciprocity. Fatherlessness leads men to become infidels and worse than infidels. Number 2, double-minded, unstable. 3, promiscuous. Number 4, impoverished. Number 5, criminally minded. You go where there's poverty, you're going to see a lot of criminal activity. And that is a man looking for power and looking for control. Somebody who doesn't feel in control will always try to steal it. Fatherlessness often leads both men and women into the concubines, the concubine quarters of Jezebel. Right? You find yourself entangled with a narcissist. If that's your story, fatherlessness may be the root of that story. It may be the pen that penned the story, because you're still looking for somebody to love you when God says, seek ye first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and these things will be added to you. All these things will be added to you. You're still looking for void fillers. So I'm going to get ready to wrap this up. But I want to share this with you. Fatherlessness is a curse. It is not the heart of God. It's not the will of God. All right? It is not the heart of God. It is not the will of God. It is a curse. In order for you, if you listen to this today and you decide, this is Tiffany, you know what? I'm not going to get offended. You told the truth. I'm going to put this up in here for the healthy communication course. Be sure to register for this. All right. But you say, Sister Tiffany, you told the truth. I'm not going to lie. A lot of the stuff you said counts on me. But it is the truth. I have struggled with that. I've had these patterns, whether you be male or female. You can find your way out of that, right? But you have to be led by God. My recommendation to you is take yourself out the dating pool. Seek first the kingdom of God and make sure you get healed. Get therapy, Christian therapist. Someone who loves and fears God. Not a witch, because a lot of therapists today are witches. So you want to make sure that you listen to them and see if they start talking anything new age. Don't get up in there, because that person is getting access to your heart, which is what God told you to guard. If you came up in a fatherless household, God said, when father and mother forsake you, the Lord will take you up. God said He will give you fathers. He'll give you leaders after your own heart. God's going to give you, He's going to bring the right people in your life to give you maybe that father figure. that mother figure for those of you who need it. He'll give you that, but I would recommend that you heal, or you go on an intentional healing journey. So whenever God does send a person to serve in that role, you don't hurt them and expect them to prove themselves to you. I can tell you as a leader, I've had people that thought that way with me. They thought they could hurt me, and then I was going to prove myself to them that I had good intentions, and they got the opposite result. They got correction, they got rebuke, and they got away from me. Because never will I ever allow myself to be abused because of what your mama did to you. I'll give you instruction, I'll give you insight, I'll give you everything that you need. But what I won't give you is a space and a grace to abuse me. And then whenever you called out on it, say, well, you know what happened to me. My mama did this to me. I'm giving people grace beyond that. I'm giving them grace to get it right. Now say, hey, I understand you came out of a toxic household. I understand that you've done this, but that's not good. Don't do that. That's not good. Don't do that. I'm not going to take that. So don't do that. What you mean you're not going to take that? I mean, what I'm saying, you can't do that to people. If you get somebody that comes into your life and the Lord bring that person into your life, and that person loves you, and that person is doing right by you, mirror what they're doing. If nothing else, if you don't know what to do, just mirror what they're doing. Show love and respect. Right. But what you're not going to do is you're not going to break me. You ain't going to break me. You're not going to make me despise ministry. You're not going to make me despise what I'm doing. I'm going to sit up here and I'm going to be used by God like I ought to be used by God. And I'll get you away from me. And then you got to go deal with that trauma because you actually had a genuine person in your life. And because of your childhood trauma, you decided to take advantage of that or to mismanage somebody that God sent into your life. Some of you have done just that. All right. You're going to have to go on a journey of healing, intentionality. And at the same time, you need to go on a journey of abstinence. How many of you in this room were not abstinent before you started watching this video and you're willing to have a lifestyle of abstinence right now? Until God sends to your right person after you got married. Now, not till you just meet the dude, you be like, I know this is my right person. Tiffany, we're going to get married anyhow. No, I'm talking about when that joker give you his last name, or to the guy when you give that joker your last name. Where y'all at? Let's go. Thank you. I love it when people start speaking because it encourages other people. A lot of people just kind of sit around and wait for other people to answer. Let's go. I want you guys to present your body. What we're doing, we're breaking the curse of fatherlessness. All right. We're breaking the curse of fatherlessness in this room. And we're breaking not only that, but what leads to that. One of the things that God wanted me to deal with you on today, and you notice I spoke mostly to the ladies, but to stop you from becoming a womb for the wrong men. That's right. Take accountability, but don't take yourself down that road again. If a man gets on your phone and he starts talking the language of fornication, that's the wrong kingdom. That's not for you. The wrong kingdom. House divided can't stand. The house be divided before you start building it. All right. The house be divided before you start building it. I want to read Malachi 4:5-6, and we'll get ready to get up out of here. Behold, I will send Elijah the prophet before the great and awesome day of the Lord comes. And he will turn the hearts of fathers to their children and the hearts of children to their fathers, lest I come and strike the earth with utter degree of destruction. That's English Standard Version. The King James Version says, lest I come and strike the earth with curse. It is accursed when the father's heart is turned away from the son and the son's heart is turned away from the father. God said the blessing is that he's going to turn the hearts of the father back to the son and the hearts of the sons back to the father. Begin to pray that. Y'all notice a lot of people over here are abstinent. And that's great. That's great. A lot of people that follow my channel, you've already did an abstinence decree, and then you do have those that are still struggling, that don't feel like they can do it. All right. I'm going to say a prayer for you guys. I'm figuring to get up. Anyway, I feel a wave of sleep that just tried to hit me. I want to say a prayer for you guys, and well, I want to lead you in a prayer for those of you who want to renounce sexual sin. Right? Renounce sexual sin, and you want to dedicate your body or rededicate your body back to God, rededicate your life back to God. I want you to repeat after me. Father, in the name of Jesus, I repent for fornication and all sexual sin in the name of Jesus Christ. Father, in the name of Jesus, I dedicate my body to you. I dedicate my life to you. As of today, March 27th, I commit to a life of holiness. Lord, protect me from fornication. I will not fornicate, but will instead present my body to you as a living sacrifice. And when I'm married, this is when I will engage in marital activities. I will not have sex outside of marriage. Father, I ask that you help me with this decree. Surround me with the right people and protect me from the wrong ones. It's in Jesus' name. Amen. If you just said that prayer, do a heart in the comment section. You just said that prayer, put a heart in the comment section. Y'all, I'm feeling sleepy. But the funny part is I'm going to get off of here and not going to feel sleepy anymore. Let's go. Send that prayer. Let's go. Let's go. Proud of you guys. I'm trying to get you ready for the right guys, and then when you avoid the wrong ones. Understand this. Once you are ready for the right one, God sends him. God gets him ready for you as well. But he sends a person to your life, and you can break that curse of fatherlessness off of your bloodline, off of your name, and even off of your children. Really how it be. I don't know if I got. Did I take the allergy medication? I took that early. I don't know why I'm sleepy. But I want you guys, for those of you who have never confessed Jesus as your Lord and Savior, let's go. Rebuke it in Jesus' name. If you've never confessed Jesus as your Lord and Savior, I want you to write me in the comment section. I want to lead you in prayer as well. If you would like to confess Jesus as your Lord and Savior on tonight, I would love to lead you in that prayer. No worries, I'm not going to bring you on a platform. I would just love to lead you in prayer, and you would just repeat after me. If that happens to be you, you never confessed Jesus as your Lord and Savior, and you want to do so on tonight or aka this morning, write me in the comment section. You have the communication course, yes, ma'am. Write me in the comment section. There it is. I'm going to count down from 5. All right. If you haven't jumped on this boat, don't miss the opportunity. If you're in this room, God brought you in here for a reason. So don't skip it. Don't let any voice convince you to wait. Don't let any voice convince you to push it off. Okay. If I were you, just understand that you're in this place for a reason. And I would love for you to take the invitation to basically start your relationship and your journey with God. Yes, ma'am, Tiff. Thank you. God bless you. All right, I'm going to count down from 5. 5. You know what the deal is. It's time for them to get done. 4, 3, 2, 1. That means all y'all are saved, sanctified, filled with the Holy Spirit, or you just on one. I hope that we ain't got nobody in here that don't want God. All right. I love you with all the love that I can give to you. I pray that the Lord continues to bless, keep you, protect you, guide you, lead you on a path that glorifies his name and away from every path that does not give him glory. And I pray that the Lord continues to give you clarity, understanding, and instruction. It's in Jesus' name. Anywho, I love you guys, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.